Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 236. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge on the comic forums, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. This is not the episode where I'll be introducing the Boy Power Coalition. So says the Sensei of the Whatnot, Segulin, and the Duke of You-Know.
How's it going?
It'll make a lot more sense later on.
Definitely.
This episode, we talk about Superman, in particular, a couple issues of Superman. We talk about Supergirl. We talk about Justice League of America. We talk about show favorites, Secret Six and Birds of Prey. It's a pretty packed episode, actually, of content, so really excited to talk about this. Jim, before we go into some of our opening ads, I also want to announce to our listeners we're going to be at C2E2, the Chicago's comic convention. It's the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. It's March 18th to the 20th. It's at the West Building at the McCormick Place, and that actually is going to be our chance to celebrate our 5-year anniversary. March 23rd is actually the anniversary date of the show. So we're going to be recording at C2E2 our 5-year anniversary episode. So if anybody's going to be there and would like to come by, say hello, get your voice heard on the podcast, we'd love to have you. But that's even just to come and say hello to us. I'm really excited. We're going to be there again in, I guess, the podcast arena. I don't know what they don't call it that at C2E2, but we're going to be part of that. But... Yeah, we're very excited to be a part of the C2E2 convention again. So we figured we'd announce that now because it's a very big celebration for us. 5 years of the podcast. Who would have thunk?
Dude, man, I tell you, it does sometimes freak me out when I sit there and I think about this and just how much this has been a part of our life, and just it's really is a really cool thing. The fact that we'll be at that con, we'll be at Chicago, and that was a con that I really enjoyed last time,
I did too.
I'm so glad we're going back because you're in downtown Chicago for the con. You're actually experiencing the city, and it's kind of has that same kind of vibe that I liked about when we were in New York, that we're just wandering around the streets of New York. We kind of do the same thing, with Chicago. So definitely looking forward to this.
I'm also anticipating, too, if you take a look at what Reed's done with the New York Comic Con, every year that they have their conventions, they improve them. So they take a look and they really value the feedback, and they take a look at it and say, what can we do differently? How can we fix it up? How can we improve it even more? And they've, like the New York Comic Con, where it's at now, think about our first New York Comic Con compared to where that convention's at now. They've really improved over time. And I'm hoping for the same thing with C2E2. I want to see that convention grow in the same way. I loved last year. I thought it was a great convention, and I'm excited for what are they going to do more now. So very cool. Great to be back at C2E2 again and celebrating 5 years of Raging Bullets. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, you can pick up DC Universe Legacies, number 10 of 10. And I really wanted to shout this one out because I think this series has just been phenomenal. This is written by Len Wein, and this issue has art by Jesus Saez and Carl Story. And I apologize for any name bushery there. And Gary Frank with Scott Collins. And there's a variant cover by Gary Frank. In this final issue, another crisis looms before the collected heroes of the DC Universe, with the mood of the people, human and superhuman alike, growing more and more bleak. And in the co-feature, all hope seems to be lost for the DC Universe as the Blue Beetle charges off to confront Max Lord concerning his part in DCU's dark future. And this is regularly $3.99, 40% off only $2.39. This has been a phenomenal series, and if you haven't been picking this up, I highly recommend it, whether you're a long-time reader or a new reader of the DC Universe, because it really is year for year from the perspective of this great character that we get to see from his childhood through to present day, looking at the formation of the DC Universe as we know it. We get to see the history of the DCU, major events that have happened to a variety of characters, and what it looks like from the man on the street. And I love that. I mean, it's just been great. And this obviously will take us through, it looks like, through Infinite Crisis. So it's going to be a great comprehensive piece to kind of give you a primer, especially for new DC readers. But for me, as a longtime fan, I found this a absolute pure joy. I think the writing's been spot on, both in the main story and the co-features. I just think it's done a really great job of giving a big picture of the DC Universe, and it's something that when it's collected, I like it so much that I'm considering buying the collected edition when it comes out, because I do see myself reading this one again and again, just as kind of a way to prime myself for the history of this universe and what's going on. It's a great anniversary piece through DC's 75th anniversary, and it's a great story that they put together for longtime fans. I was a big fan of the history of the DC Universe years ago when Marv Wolfman wrote that, and I'm glad to see that they've done something new in the present day for this. So that's DCBService.com, your comic book pre-order source. This is kind of a cool one over at InStockTrades.com. It's Batgirl, the greatest stories ever told, trade paperback. Batgirl takes the center stage in this collection, which includes her 1967 debut and various stories throughout the 90s, including stories from Detective Comics 359, 396, 400, 422, 423, 424, Batman Family 1 and 9, Legends of the DC Universe 10 and 11, and Batman Chronicles number 9. And it's written by a whole bunch of writers, including Denny O'Neil, artists like Gil Kane, Terry Dodson, and others. The cover artist is Alex Ross. It's regularly $19.99, 38% off, only $12.39. I want to remind everyone that InStockTrades.com has free shipping on orders of $50 or more. So if you're doing some of that holiday shopping, especially last-minute holiday shopping, this is a great time to get some amazing discounts for yourself. Or if you get those like Visa gift cards and stuff like that, I love getting those. It's a great opportunity to use some of those to get some great books. And if you're new to the Batgirl concept, especially Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, it's kind of a cool way to get kind of caught up. It's 160 pages in this book, so check that one out from InStockTrades.com. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we?
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing on the show. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Raging Blitz Podcast. You like comics, you like free, you like us.
Jim, the first review I wanted to talk about on this episode, it was funny. It was actually a change, and this came out this week. It's Supergirl number 59, and it's the last issue for the creative team. It's Sterling Gates is the writer, Jamal Igle penciler, John Sabal and Robin Riggs are the inkers, blonde colorist Travis Lanham letterer, Amy Reeder, Richard Friend, and Guy Major on the cover, Will Moss associate editor, and Matt Idelson is the editor. This is the second part of the Day of the Dollmaker storyline, and it's entitled End of the Line is the tagline on it. This is a book that has been near and dear to my heart since this creative team took over. They took a character, I always liked Supergirl prior to it, so I'm not going to try to pretend that I didn't like the character, but she was a character who was unlikable in the sense she had an attitude, and it was like a lot of what Cat Grant was saying in the early parts of their run on her view of Supergirl. Some of that rung a little bit true to what the character was actually like early on. But Sterling Gates and Jamal Igle and the whole team have shown us you don't know her yet. You haven't really seen who she could be and what she is capable of. And they taught us this and turned this into arguably my favorite Superbook. And I've really enjoyed this run. It's one of the ones Nick Spencer's taking over with issue number 60 and Bernard Chang.
Yeah.
They have big shoes to fill. And I like Nick Spencer a lot. What he's doing so far, he's done the Jimmy Olsen co-feature, but he's also doing the very cool Thunder Agents book. So got a lot of confidence in this writer, but boy, this is a team that made me love this character a lot. I love her in the Justice League because of this book.
Yeah, I was nervous about the changeover, especially when I heard, and then when I found out who is doing it, and I'm like, okay, what's he done? And I'm looking, and then once I realized that he is the Thunder Agents guy, I was like, oh, okay. Then I'm sad to see the change because this is a character that when I talk of these characters that have really just stood out for me, and characters that I'm looking forward to in the future. It's she's part of my girl power coalition where it's Supergirl, Power Girl, Zatanna.
Do you have a boy power coalition as well, or
no? I don't.
Because this is multiple episodes now. You've talked about your girl power coalition, so I just was wondering where this was going.
It's the characters that I'm like, these are characters, and it's, to be all joking, these are characters I never thought when 5 years ago when we started this that I would be so passionate about. I would be so into, and
we're actually going to talk a lot of girl power on this because we're going to talk about birds on this episode as well. God, and these are characters that are very important to me.
Yeah, and it's this is one of those characters, and it was a growth over time, multiple issues, and I was just like it started with that great cancer cure issue that I still just really that issue is like this that's a great, just intro and a, kind of a really building block for me of this character as a hero, as a person, that everything that she went through with the War of Supermen, with the Cat Grant attack stuff. This was just a great way to...
The whole Superwoman arc was very... Who is Superwoman? I thought was brilliant.
And the Who is Superwoman, the ending of that, and then the kind of return of Superwoman, that whole deal that they went through everything with, through her eyes, that you saw this going on. And, those times when I'm sitting there going, I feel so terrible for this girl. I want to help her. And I want to, say, hey, it's going to be okay. I wanted to be, that supporting part of her, supporting crew.
I do want to clarify, this team kicked off after the cancer arc that you're talking about. Because, when they kicked on, they gave her the secret identity. They went through that whole route and brought her into the Daily Planet. But that was I think that was the kickoff of your love for the character. One of the reasons why I want to focus on this team and talk about that, and I'm not disputing anything you're saying, because I totally agree with everything you're saying, that the character took a major turn during that time. This team, if you look at the beginning with what they did when they brought her into the Daily Planet, and how they end off this issue, this is really a love letter to the fans of their run. I'm a big fan of creative teams having the chance to do this, and I've said this on the show multiple times. This is a trend that I want to see continue for any creative team who works on any book, ever. I think they should have an opportunity to end off the run for the fans of that run. And this is so classy, the ending. They've really left this book in a great spot with a sense of hope for the future. And the creative team really just ended off this in a way that Nick Spencer and Bernard Chang now have a book where in issue 60, they can start their new direction wherever they're going to go with it, because these guys have really treated not just the new oncoming creative team, but their fans with a classy ending that really puts us in a place that we're prepared for a new creative team. However we feel about that change, they've treated us, I think, very well, and it's something that I particularly appreciate, that when creative team has a chance to do this. We talked about Gail Simone when she's been able to do this on her runs and her creative teams. This is something I really liked seeing here, and I a round of applause to them for the way that they ended off this run with this issue. So this is the second part of this doll maker arc, who is the son of the Toyman. Talk about a twisted upbringing. Dad likes you when you're super young, but then when you get to a certain age, you're done. Talk to the hand. I'm gonna hang out, which is a whole bunch of creepy on a whole other level.
There's so many different levels of creep going on here. I'm just like, wow.
But these giant dolls that are around Cat Grant are actually some of the kidnapped kids. That have been put into these suits. And we find out this issue, why did he capture Cat Grant? He wants Cat Grant to be his new mommy. You know what? Because mommy left him, abandoned him as well.
I don't know. I think she'd make a good mommy.
But I love when Cat, we have this cool moment where he's going through and talking about this whole scenario and how, if you're my mom, look at all these things we can do together and all this great stuff. And she rejects him at a certain point during the issue where she goes, I would never in a million years want you as my kid. If my kid were still alive today. And I loved the honest emotion of that. This is a mother who lost her child. This is something that we've seen in this run has scarred her and affected her. It's jaded her. And she has this kid who's telling her, I could replace your kid. And for a mother, nobody can replace their kid. Even if she had another child, that child wouldn't replace the previous child. That's a mother's love. That's a mother's connection with that child. That child will always have a special place in her heart. She's like, my kid would be your kid's age, and you aren't half the man my kid would be. I loved those honest, emotional moments from her. I was just geeking out left and right.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I loved that honest emotion, just that the look, and this was one of those things where it's the art team and the writing going on, because you see the rage and the anger and just the passion. Even before Dollman takes off the gag, you can just tell she's just like fuming at him at everything he's saying. I thought those were some really cool stuff, but it was funny because as I'm reading this, I'm just going, as soon as she started, I was like, yeah, and then I was like, oh, that's not a good thing to say to a psychopath. Oh no, this is not going to end well. And there was a couple times I was wondering where this is going to go, and wow.
Well, here's a great line she says to him. I wouldn't love you if you were the last child in Metropolis, you little freak. Shock at first, but then he's like, what a great idea. I'm like, what? What? But I mean, it tells you how twisted this kid really is and how messed up he was because of his parents.
Yeah, he's got a couple issues going on, and it's, he's planning on killing all the children everywhere. And the thing I thought was, one, it was multiple cool stuff going on, because you got this, psychopath torturing her, doing whatever he's doing, and then you got Supergirl out there trying to find clues, and she's just going around beating the crud out of every villain she can find, because she's like, maybe the bad guys know something, and let me go and stomp, some of them. And I was just like going back and forth, and finally, after he gets his brilliant plan, he's going to go and kill all the children, he looks at her and goes, hey, maybe I should put the gag in before Supergirl! And she calls out for Supergirl. I cheered at that, not only the fact that Kat is calling for help, and she had that moment before, like, I can't believe I have to do this, kind of that, oh, shoot, but even the villain realized, hey, I better gag her before this happens.
I like that, too.
I loved seeing that, and just all of that, just that whole play out. That was just a great way to, it was one of those comical moments mixed in with some cool comic book action stuff. We had a beautiful, wonderful just entrance of Supergirl. Had that, a super, esque entrance, as she, swoops in.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, with the, with just that, and just how she was looking, the, Toy Man, Doll Man turned all the little dolls on Cat, just about to do some cat scratch fever, and in comes Supergirl for the save. I really ate that up, story and visually. You got it. It was just one of those things that
I love
you got to give the credit. Yeah,
the sweep of her heat vision across, cutting the dolls in half, all the way down to melting the scissors, things like that. Just great moments. But when he ducks and she had freed Cat, it gave Cat an opportunity to get this one up, and it was really interesting to see these moments where even with Kat and Supergirl post that sequence of events where she's talking about dating and things like that, and Supergirl's like, I don't really have time to date. And you see this moment where these two people that hate each other, and Dollman even calls Supergirl, you're supposed to hate her. What are you doing here helping her? I've heard you say it. And this moment where it leads to this great emotional ending where it's on the Kent farm, and Superboy's there, Clark shows up, but Lois shows up and hands Supergirl this copy of this front page story from Cat Grant, where Cat Grant, really talks about how I'm not retracting my original story, not retracting my original stance, but my eyes have opened up that maybe it's not the whole story.
Yeah.
And, maybe I should give her more of a chance, and maybe I should give her a pat on the back for what she's trying to do, because she had to save me, and she did. And she was there, and look what she did for these kids. And, this moment, and I'm urging you, Metropolis, to also maybe give her a second chance and take a look at it. What a cool ending to the whole thing. And this great sense of hope where she's, wants to be this hero, and she's going away, and like how cool it is to be her on this day. Just, it was a very bright, happy ending to something. I think we'd be remiss if we don't talk about what happened with Lois Lane and Superwoman.
Yeah.
Because talk about another area where you're giving us a sense of closure, and yet these characters can be used again in the future together. But really talking about her sister and how who you've become, and it's really like her saying, "You're alien to me now. You're foreign to me now. You're dead to me now. You are not the sister that I thought you were, or that you were.
You're not
this
my
is not what
sister
Lucy
anymore.
would have done. Lucy would have rebelled against this. Lucy would have found another way. Lucy would have done this. And look what you've become now. You've become a puppet." And you let yourself become a puppet and just follow Dad's whims instead of your own, instead of standing up for who you are. And, I love my sister. You aren't her in those moments. Very difficult emotional moment for Lois, but I was glad they gave us a sense of closure with that as well, because that was a huge bit to this new Krypton. And to not have Lois address this would have been a disservice to the fans, and I really liked, it didn't have to be in this book. We could have seen it in a Superman book. I love that this creative team said, hey, we carried the Superwoman storyline. We really should give this moment to the fans.
Yeah.
Let them see, how would Lois react if she and Lucy were in the same room? Thank you very much for doing this, because very cool, emotional, somber moment. Talk about, this is a key to what Jamal Igle does in the art and the whole art team. Lots said in the eyes with surprise and shock. And I mean, Superwoman's in her. When Lois is looking at her, you disgust me. It's almost emotionless, and yet you can feel the anguish in her. She's saying it. And Superwoman, who thinks that she has the upper hand with her snide comments and all that, is taken aback.
Yeah.
Because it's not what she was expecting to be the emotional reaction there. I loved the visual look of all this. This has been a gorgeous book throughout this run. And that's another area where, wow, how do you follow up what they did? There's a lot of love in this book every month.
Yeah. Well, and just the sequencing with her, when she starts off, she's got that snide, that anger. Superwoman has that going on, kind of a little bit of arrogance to her, kind of, sort of. I know more than you. I'm on one up on you. I'm better than you, kind of stuff. And just Lois being Lois. It's one of the cool things about her as a person. I was so, I love seeing when creative teams take their time and they know the character and they get into the character, and they know Lois Lane, and she just went after bam, 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 and just chopped her down and took her out, and it was just one of those really cool moments. It's sad that she's basically losing her sister, but it's cool for us as a story, for the readers, and there's times when you start reading this, I start getting emotional. I got to remind myself they're not real, Jim. They're not real.
I got choked up at the end of this book because this ending is awesome. When it comes down to it, lives can be boiled down to just a few things. Our families, both the good parts and the bad. The people who hate us, the ones who love us. And the work we leave behind. Some of us try hard to make the world a better place than it was when we found it. I know what I try to do. I know I won't always be successful. But that's life. I'm Supergirl. This is my life. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with it. For now, at least. For now, at least. There's a whole lot going on with Supergirl right now. I don't know. But I love the ending because we got this bright picture of her on the Daily Planet cover. Cool little bit in the upper left-hand corner. Gates and Eagle spotted in the Bahamas. Yeah. I love little tidbits like that. I love that the Cat Grant story, you actually got to read a good portion of it in there, which was very well done. It was a great ending to a run that I thought was really special. The creative team should be proud of. And for fans who, if you're not a Supergirl reader, this now has been bookended. Do yourself a favor. Gates and Eagle on the cover of that trade paperback, when you're looking at it, pick it up. Yeah. It really is a run that if you didn't read this one and you're one of those that say, I read a lot of my books and trades and this is what I've been thinking about, you get a nice bookended run where you can feel comfortable reading this. And I like to recommend these on the podcast for people who are like, I'm mainly a Bat fan. I don't read many of the Super books. Supergirl's a book that you really want to, if you didn't read this run, you want to do yourself a favor and go back and start picking up the trades. And you'll get a nice, satisfying story at the end where you can kind of go, wow, the whole run really worked well together. I loved this, and I wanted to start with this one just because I'm a huge fan when creative teams get to do this. I thank editorial, I thank the creative team, whoever was involved in the decision for letting this team end this run this way. This team just did a bang-up job. Very cool. Jim, one of the books we haven't talked about in a while is Superman. And I want to talk about Superman 705 and 706. 705 was the one with the boy. It's this great cover with the boy on the... And I'm like, is this boy getting bullied? What's going on with him? It's one of the things I've enjoyed about Grounded, was seeing Superman really deal with one-on-one with groups of people in situations you don't normally get to see Superman involved in. Before we go into the boy story, though, I'd actually like to talk a little bit about Superman's dream. Yeah. Because he's been tormented throughout a lot of this with, what are the right decisions for me to make? Should I be dealing with people more on this level? I want to save, and actually the real issue is he wants to save everybody. He wants to help everyone. And you see him have this nightmare where he's haunted by this idea that he can't, and you sees the metropolis burning, and this giant monster-like creature, but he gets scratched by this creature in this fight who's really overtaking him, and when he wakes up and he's in bed with Lois, his face is all scratched up from this. Yeah. So what is that all about?
See, I took it either it's his own fingernails scratching himself, kind of like the whole getting into it, or this is the remnants of the new kryptonite that's affecting that one female who's kind of like, stalking / targeting him, this putting people, turning people against Superman kind of deal.
Is there something bigger going on, though? I guess part of my question is this a sign that maybe there's something going on internally with Superman that he doesn't know and we don't know? Beyond that, even. I don't know.
Or it could be the effect that they're having on him, or it's maybe an outside assault on him. This is some more groundwork being laid for, I think, for a future story we're going to get populated. And part of it was, I loved how we get this big, cool, this massive thing, and later on it does play in with the little kid's story as well. Because the little kid sees the scratches and the cuts on him, and even says, does your dad hit you too? kind of deal. And I thought that was just a great way to have this, one part of the story mesh into the other part of the story and just bring everything, together. Because it's, on one hand, just seeing Superman's help this little kid is, part of it. But it's also just that more of a connection. And it's the, multi-layered factions of a story being told, and not even just stuff groundwork laid now as plays out later. It's stuff laid out in the beginning of the issue, coming together with the end of the issue, and it's just kind of like the flow through type of the story going through. And that was something that I'm really digging about Grounded. There are some action sequences, and it's kind of cool, but there's not all about action. It's not all about Superman beating up big giant things. There is just the nuances, just the day-to-day interactions that he's having. I'm loving this connection that he's having with the people in the DC universe, but also the connection that we're getting in that we're seeing him. And we know who he is, we understand who he is, but we do get to see more of these human sides. Like with this nightmare. If it was just a nightmare, okay, that is telling us something. If it's something more than just a nightmare, then yeah, this is the beginning of something else.
I think it's. I'm not even taking it as just a nightmare at all.
Yeah.
I'm taking that the nightmare, and I agree with everything you're saying as far as I loved how the nightmare wound up being an avenue to this kid connecting with Superman and saying, did you get beat up by your dad? And that gives Superman the clue that, oh my gosh, this kid's being abused at home. Which is a very deep issue to tackle in a comic and a very important thing. We talked about that great issue that Freddie Williams and Adam Beechin did way back when with Robin and Suicide-ish. This is another one where a victim of child abuse by a parent, seeing the mother also being abused, the mother really kind of covering for what's happening to the kid. Because she's a victim herself and not knowing how to deal with it. It's a very real reality. And there were bits when I've read this issue where I was very angry at the mom. There were bits where I was very sympathetic to the mom. In all cases, I thought the kid defended his mom to dad.
Yeah.
Dad, who has victimized this kid countless times, seen mom be victimized countless times. For this kid to pull some inner strength together and to be Superman for mom in those moments just made this a home run issue for me. Where I'm just like, the entire issue, every time I've read it through, consistently I've been like, wow, this kid is super cool, super neat. And it's really sad where you see these situations where adults are affecting the life of a child. And this kid gets his chance, though, to be Superman. He's like, Superman's coming to town. I would love if Superman, this kid who needs some hope in his life, something to get him up in the morning and to feel happy, just to be a kid. This moment with Superman, I'm like, oh, this is the power of kids and power of childhood, is the fact that kids, no matter what adults throw at them, they find a way in that darkness to still be kids. And it's something we all can learn a lesson from children in those moments, and it's something we all need to remember. And this kid, just the message there I thought was super powerful, and it was a great Superman story for this moment. I really kind of connected with that. Clark with Lois, being able to see that Lois, and this is important to me too, he's doing this walkabout, but I needed him to see, he's married. There's got to be some time to connect with your wife. She needs that. He needs that. I love seeing her there for him because he's having these moments of where he's trying to figure himself out and how this is all working and figure out really his role with people on a street level. What more can we do as heroes? And she supported him the whole way through, which I really dig about her. And being there as a confidant, being there as somebody to talk to, and how he respects her opinion and her thoughts and the way she supports him is really important to that marriage. And it's something I need to see in the comics. And I'm glad that they took the opportunity to not just give us his dream, but great dialogue between those characters both before the dream and after the dream, where she's concerned, she's helping take care of him. This is Superman, yet he still needs those moments where he's going through this tormenting thing and his wife's there for him. And to me, it makes both characters stronger to see what they bring to the table for each other in those moments. And I really loved that about this issue.
Well, it's always been that whole thing. Who can be strong enough to be, with Superman? It's, that strength of character that just no normal person would be able to put up with everything that happens. And you need to have that, not only just the specialness of herself, just, her inner strength, but it's, sometimes when he needs that, shoulder, when he needs that person there, she's the support group for Superman, and that is just huge and tough and just really kind of impressive thing. And it's that whole thing that we talked just now, minutes ago about with seeing her and Supergirl, how that creative team really understood who Supergirl is. Again, really understood who Lois was. Again, we're seeing, they get who Lois is. They get why she's important to Superman. And I love seeing those moments. But just, this was another one of those just art and story moments that just blend together throughout these. There were so many times when I was just sitting there, like, seeing those two talking together, had that, there's that cool, motion. Then when you see the kid, running, to stand between, his dad, his mom, like, no, kind of deal. You get that, just that sense of, oh my God. And just those moments when he finally calls out to Superman for help. And, Clark looks, sees him in the basement. That scene where he's standing at the top of the stairs, and then the follow-up scenes when he's dealing with the boy's father. I was just like, oh my God, these are just these really cool Superman moments. Because, you think about it. This is Superman. That guy had to know going through his head that he's not going to kill me. Superman doesn't kill anybody. But he put the fear of Superman in him. He put that fear of, maybe I'll be the one exception to Superman's rule kind of deal.
But we didn't see a lot of that on camera, which I thought was great, too. We're left to our imagination. What was it like when Superman actually brought him in and all that? I didn't need to see that. I thought it was cool to kind of leave it to us to assume what happens there and how that all goes down. Because obviously we do see the guy later and that he's fine. But, whatever Superman did. Here's an interesting bit, and I really love this because it shows a lot of care in painting the realities of the situation. We got this police officer talking to Superman. We've contacted Child Protective Services and made them aware of the situation. We're also going to file charges against the father. Now, here's the situation, and I've seen this before as an educator in situations with parents who've had restraining orders and things like that. Here's a big problem. This dad has hit rock bottom now. He's going to jail for this. The word is going to be out at his work. The word's going to be out for his friends, family. Everyone's going to know who he is and what he did. You can't hit more rock bottom than that. The reality is when dad gets out, scumbags like this a lot of times, they just aren't going to care.
Yeah.
And restraining orders, all that stuff. So here, what happens when he gets out? I suggest a restraining order. That usually works. If not, well, we have no control over that. And she's not being cavalier. She's being honest about the realities of this is Superman. And that's really the truth. The unfortunate part is until he's actually committed the crime of breaking the restraining order, there's not a whole lot they can do at that moment. But Superman does this a little bit, and I liked it because it was a good solution of the issue, but showing that this will never really be over for this family. Because, Dad has snapped. William, this is a phone number I want you to call. This number, once a day, for as long as you want, and leave a message. Just tell me how you're doing and what you're up to. But you have to be sure to do it every day. Because if there's ever a day when I don't hear from you, there will be consequences.
Yeah.
Looking right over at the dad. And this real reality of, Superman recognizing this is never going to be over again. And good thing you came along, Superman. Otherwise, we might never have been known about this. It needed you to get to the bottom of it. No, it didn't. All it really needed, was anyone with a pair of eyes, a voice, and a phone, and 10 cents worth of compassion. And that's true. In society nowadays, we can't ignore stuff like this. Any type of abuse, violence, things like that. I'm actually legally, as a teacher, if I were to see signs of this, I am not allowed, I have to say something. Mm-hmm. And I can get in major legal, and I think that's great. It's for the protection of a family, but it's a true fact. Because of what I do as my job, if I were to see signs of any student of mine, I have to bring it to the attention of my guidance counselor, my principal, and Child Protective Services. Even if, and ultimately, those professionals can take a look at it and decide yes or no, there's something wrong or not. But if I suspect anything,
you gotta say something.
I have to say something. And that's actually for the protection of the families because I'm not professionally trained to make those judgment calls. So you get in touch with the professionals who are, they can make the distinctions. And that isn't even a cure or solution to the whole thing. But I'm glad that at least there's that in place. Superman's message here is really important, though. And the sad part is, Superman can't do this with every child who's been abused in the DC universe. You can't have them all calling every day because that's all Superman would do is take those phone calls. And I think that's part of the truth of the storyline of Grounded is that heroes can't be everywhere. in the DC universe. There are some situations they just, it's not a matter of picking and choosing. It's, are you lucky enough to be in that place at the time to stop it? Superman would have stopped this whether he was doing what he was doing in Grounded or not. Thank goodness he was doing the walkabout that he was. He's able to stop this for this kid in this moment and maybe make this kid's life better, one life. And isn't that the role of a hero? Maybe if you can change one life and you can inspire other people to do that as well, maybe we can make a difference there. I like that.
Now, the 706, that was a nice, filler in with the Grounded story arc. And that was something...
G. Willow Wilson did the story writing for this one. This actually gave me a lot of hope for a new creative team taking over. Please, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say how it was one of the things that I really enjoyed, the fact that I didn't know how I would... When I looked at the cover, I didn't see, Straczynski. I'm like... Are they starting the changing over? Is this Straczynski, or is this a filler? And it was...
Well, she's filled in before. She did that Lois Lane issue a while back. So this is the second issue that G. Willow Wilson's done.
Right.
It's not the first time that we've seen her on this book.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know if it's starting, if the change is going through. So I kind of, when I, started looking, I was like, okay, what are we going to get here? And I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a great, place to put it in there. We had that, very passionate issue, before with the kid, and then we go to Perry, and it's, about the strength of the Superman title isn't just Superman. It is his supporting cast. It is all these other characters in the Daily Planet. And I love seeing Perry, basically being spotlighted here, because he's a character that I do know who he is, but I don't have a strong connection with Perry as I do with the other characters. I've never really seen that many, Perry White stories in my reading.
But it also touches on, and there's been some really cool over the years in Superman, some great Perry White spotlights. But one of the things that I really liked about this too is it touches on some real realities of where our society's at with technology and blogging, TMZ, your shows like that, WikiLeaks, everything that's going on in our society right now is actually echoed in this issue with this urbanitis site.
Yeah.
That was in there, where this concept that this website is taking a look at the relationship Superman has with the Daily Planet, particularly its head reporters, Clark Kent and Lois Lane in particular, and saying, is there something more going on with Superman and Lois? We've got a picture going. And here's the problem. We've seen in the comics Superman kissing Lois.
Yes.
So the real question we're asking as fans is, did they catch it? Because it was a cell phone photo, quote-unquote cell phone photo, supposedly taken. And that's the great thing about this whole thing is you're sitting there as fans recognizing, have they been busted? Is this something where, is there legitimacy to it? Great topic idea for a story right now. And how's Perry going to react to that scandal? What will this do to the planet's credibility? Plus, there's also $20,000 now that this urbanitis site is tracking that mysteriously is popping in. Are they paying off Superman? And that money went out again. So the money came in and went out again. Is there a Superman fund that's being developed? And it turns out that Perry White used his own money to finance the internship program because he believes in the planet and he wants that to continue. And it was really interesting to see that with where newspapers are going now, that the planet's facing the same struggles that we're seeing in newspapers nowadays.
Paper's dying quickly.
Right.
If not dead already, it's close to it. Now, my family, we get the newspaper.
So my wife,
my dad reads through cover to cover every day. I'll skim the paper and pick out stuff. I usually will go through online and read it electronically.
I do too.
And it's definite changes going on, and I'm glad to see they're acknowledging this. And it's curious to see where 5-10 years from now the Daily Planet will be. Will they be more online? Will they continue holding on to the old guard? What if in regular society, if papers completely disappear? Will they hold on to it in the comic books? I don't know. It's people always talk about digital versus paper, digital versus floppy. Are we getting rid of our floppy comics and going all online, all electronically? I love seeing the fact that they're addressing it here, but also it showed old school journalism. It showed the ethics of reporters, and that's something for me that I get very angry with when I start seeing, especially a lot of the different TV shows where the person's a quote-unquote reporter, and they're really not. They're simply feeding whatever agenda they have, whether it's ratings, whether it's a political agenda, whether it's a personal agenda. There's no, it's like, the days of like Walter Cronkite are gone. days of reporters who are there to, report the news, report the facts, report the information behind it are gone. They're looking for ratings. They're looking for the sensationalism of, television, of the media, of, the moment. And it's something that usually I get angry when I, watch, when I'm surfing online, because I know I'm only getting a piece of the story. And I love seeing...
And you want the rest of the story.
Yes, I do.
Sorry, when you're doing the Cronkite moments, I'm like...
Well, it's... I wish, there was that, information out there.
Yeah.
And, and I have, my personal beliefs. I have my, political affiliations and whatnot. So I understand and I get where people, if you're doing a television show and you're broadcasting, you want to, promote your agenda. I understand that. But there's times when I'm watching like a news show and I'm like just looking at the interview going, this person is so clearly being biased against the person they're interviewing.
Right.
And you can just see that they're trying to, belittle or, knock down their argument. And whether I agree or disagree with the person they're going after, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that it is ethic. It is the news.
Sometimes you want to hear, though, it's not necessarily the news, though, because when that person's putting their own spin on it, sometimes, like when it comes to political candidates, is a great example of that. Sometimes I want to hear just the straight facts about the political candidate and make my own decision. Mm-hmm. I want to be objective on my own. Let me make, and then I can have the choice then to read afterwards or listen afterwards, depending on how I want to do it, to commentary about, it's very hard to find straight facts when it comes to politics nowadays. Which makes it very hard as a voter. If you want to be responsible, I'm like, just give me the bullet points. Give me the straight facts. Let me learn about this candidate. Then let me hear all the other people's opinions. And let me make my own. But I always feel like I never get the straight facts. So you're making a lot of times a judgment call when you don't really have concrete data. And I think it's why a lot of times our political system gets very messed up. Because it's, where do you go to find straight information without a spin? It's very difficult to do that. When you were talking about the newspaper, our local paper is the Plain Dealer. And my wife gets it daily. And I'll be 100% honest, this is going to... I read it for the funnies. I'm not going to lie. I do. I'm like you. I get my news online. I look online. A lot of times I go to a lot of different sites. If I see a story that interests me, I tend to jump around then and try to see other takes on it because of a lot of the issues that we're talking about. And I've always been more comfortable with the electronic on that end. But I actually really like, she's very into the daily paper. She reads it cover to cover. She'll actually tell me like stories that she's read that she's very into, which leads to some interesting discussions because I'll have read it from the online end a lot of times, and we have a discussion of two different viewpoints based on what we read, which is kind of cool. I actually feel good that we support the newspaper, though, because I'm a big believer in the paper medium. I'm glad to see that's still around. I'm glad to see that papers are exploring more and more online publishing of their newspapers, because I believe the newspaper concept, even if the paper end of it dies, the newspaper concept needs to be in place, especially a strong local paper.
Yeah.
And you see them, how much thinner they are now than we were kids. That thing used to be huge. I used to help my friends who were delivery boys deliver their papers. I was never one, but it's funny. For as much as I was never a delivery boy, I did it quite a few times. You sleep over friends' houses and stuff. Like, they get up in the morning, they had a route, and you go around door to door and doing that. But it's a dying breed, that era. Nowadays, newspapers are chucked out car windows. There is not the delivery boy with the sack anymore, walking around from place to place. But I don't know. It's interesting to see where it's going to go, because it's something that's needed. I think we still need newspapers.
Yeah.
We need, I don't know what you call it, news blogs, news whatever, but you need that organized newspaper. I think you still need that kind of medium. Comics digitally, we go into the same problem with that. I like web comics. I love digital comics. I'm a fan of that kind of medium. I think it's a great way for people to break into comics. The one thing I like about paper comics is I like the contained delivery of getting a paper comic every month. I've been an advocate on this show for digital comics for expansion of the industry. And basically a lot of my comments that you've heard on the show, especially in the last couple years talking about the digital and the need for it, it's my own disgust over what we consider top-selling sales numbers in comics. You know, what we consider the top books and the ones we pat on the back. I'm like, my opinion is due to the quality of those comics, they should be a lot higher sales. So I'm hoping the digital medium, as it grows and increases as a delivery system for comics, not to take away from the paper. I don't want to see paper gone. I want to see new fans reading the comics you and I are already digging. Comics like this. G. Willow Wilson is a writer who I loved Air. So to see G. Willow Wilson writing a couple issues of Superman here, I'm like, gives me hope. Seeing a Vertigo writer come over and writing Superman and doing so well gives me hope for the iZombie writer writing Superman. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this issue. This is a great issue that explores thematically some of the questions that I think we need to have answered about Superman. How is the world viewing their relationship? Lois Lane and Superman. Why wouldn't there be a scandal like this popping up? And it addresses that, and it's a cool story because, yes, this would come up. Lois Lane is a married woman, a married reporter, a high-profile married reporter who is married to one of the other reporters who talks to Superman. Is money being exchanged? What's going on there? Why is the Daily Planet getting all of these exclusive stories with Superman?
Yep.
Well, we know as readers it's because Clark Kent works there. So does his wife. We
Superman
know that.
Works there and his wife does. So
Yes.
he's going to give it a little of that.
But I'm glad to see it addressed in this way. And Perry uses this as an opportunity to test this photographer who, is shooting Superman's tush, basically saying, you got to get hungry, doing what he did to Jimmy Olsen, and the other ones, to step this kid's game up and really helping him. The comments that he was making, the criticisms he was helping, were to help him be a better photojournalist. I loved that was really the driving, motivating factor. Is Perry's a newspaper guy. He's gruff. He's all business. But this kid actually is going to grow and maybe be better as a photojournalist because of what he did. Perry fires him, sends him to this website. Great opportunity for this kid to infiltrate and find out what was really going on. And this kid ultimately discovers that the picture was a doctored one, which, how much Photoshop doctored stuff is on the web nowadays?
Come on.
And thank goodness. I love that we didn't see that picture until the end, though.
Yeah.
We as the readers never knew until we got to the end of the story. Is it a legit story? Is it a legit? And it could have been. That's what was great about it. As readers, we're like, they could have been busted there. They really could have been busted. I loved the delivery and the pacing of this issue. Very well written Superman story. Very self-contained, too. So for readers who haven't been reading Superman, you're like, well, the premise sounds really cool here. This is an A to B, 706, contained story about this. Yeah. So if you like, I'd love to see how that was executed, pick it up. You don't, even if you're one of the fans that have been saying that, Grounded's not my cup of tea, I walked away from Superman, because we've had listeners who've said that, you got to read this story. It's cool.
Yeah, it's a neat one.
So that's Superman.
Be a good boy, finish your homework, and be in bed by 9. And hey, please tell the big man I said hello.
Jim, one of the things that I wanted to make sure we got a chance to talk about, and you and I have been both chomping at the bit to talk about this, was Birds of Prey, issue 6 and 7. We're actually going to talk about both issues. I want to talk about the ending of this 2 of 2, 2 Nights in Bangkok storyline that was going on in Birds of Prey, showing Black Canary having to take on this White Canary role. We were left with a cliffhanger in issue 5, wondering, okay, why is she donning the outfit? Why is she seeming to cooperate? And we find out all along that kind of some of the assumptions we'd made earlier on, that Sin was going to somehow get involved in this storyline, but this isn't the way I expected. She was kidnapped by White Canary along with her foster parents. So now they've been put in this position where Black Canary has to combat Lady Shiva. And I love how we were left in this is a brilliant setup by Gail Simone. The cliffhanger, we were left with thinking that Black Canary was going after Shiva because Shiva set her up. We find out Shiva did not do that. It really was White Canary all along, and this was all a ploy to cover the tracks. I love seeing that Huntress and Zinda are not standing for it, though. They're like, we're going to go down here. We're going to find out. We're all sisters in this. We're all family. This is what the birds were all about. We've been talking a lot about teams that have been in turmoil in the DC universe, and I've got no problem with that. I want to clarify that. I do think sometimes you need to heavily shake up teams, but I think what ends up happening is you have too many of your teams in turmoil. You never know who the core team is. One of the great things about the birds are they aren't in turmoil. And my definition of turmoil means that the team is so busted up that you can't possibly see them being together at the end of it. In this case, we know who the birds are. It's Black Canary, it's Huntress, it's Zinda, and now Hawk and Dove. They're a core team. And I mean, you could also argue you've got characters like Savant and Creote who are, part of Team Birds to a certain extent with Oracle. But, we know who this core team is. These three are the core members that, to me, they're the squad that are your glue holding this team together. All the other characters don't work in this team if this team isn't together. These are the ones that I really want to follow. I really want to see what's going to happen. They've had this long relationship. You got to shake them up a little bit. There's a difference between a shake-up and turmoil. These guys, when they're in this moment, I'm seeing them there, I'm like, ooh, yes. Hunters, my friend, she's Italian. She knocks the guy in the face. I love these bits with Huntress. These two have really basically been victimized to a certain extent by their captors and also by the situation with White Canary where they thought Dinah turned on them. Did she? I love that they're not settling for that, though. They want to know what the true story is. They see her face. They see in her face that she's being she's resolved to do something that she doesn't want to do. Something that's out of her character, out of her core. And they're wondering why. I love the setup to this. Brilliant. And great job on the art for this issue.
Oh, definitely. Because a lot of the stuff that's being told is being told in the story. It's being told in, the dialogue boxes and whatnot. But a lot of the story is told in the eyes. And that's just some great stuff where you get those panels where you're looking and you're seeing the determination. You're seeing what the characters are saying they're seeing. They see that turmoil, that inner turmoil going on through where you see it on her face. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So it's, again, another way just to pull you in deeper. And this stuff, I love how, they don't take you got option A or B. No, we'll create option C here. And I love that.
We were both laughing because the way that you said that, I thought you were saying that you didn't think there was an option C. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, now I understand. I didn't actually go back to listen to what you said because I'm like, the way you were saying that, it sounded like you didn't think there was an option C there, which I totally agree with you on now that I understand what you were saying there.
And let me clarify just so everyone, I'm saying it from the bird's point of view. The birds of prey are being presented with option A or B, and they say, no, we're going to make our own option C.
They didn't say that at first. They were actually resolved to the fact that they had to deal with A and B. It wasn't until the circumstance presented themselves with an option C that they took it. Because throughout most of this issue, they're actually stuck with A or B, and they don't see another way out of it. The only other options where they do, and one of the ways that I like it is, we see where Black Canary's like, I've got to go and do this fight with Shiva. And spur of the moment, partway through she's going to be her second. Basically, it's like from Greece. She's being Kanicki's second over that. I love that moment. She goes up to the table and realizes that Dinah's got so much to lose. And this actually fits something that's been explored in this entire Bird's run. Huntress has really felt for quite a while she doesn't have like this family. She doesn't have this connection. And she's reminded in this issue that she does. Through her own actions. She cares about these girls. She's looking at Dinah and saying, you cannot afford to die. I'm not going to let you. And I will take the fight to Shiva. And what's interesting to me honor-wise, I love how brilliant Gail Simone writes Shiva. Because to me, Shiva's one of those characters that she's been... I loved her way back in Nightfall, Night's End, all that stuff, where we got to see her train Bruce. And really a dark Shiva where she wants Batman to kill. And that's her overall goal, is to get Bruce to kill, to cross that line, to be, in many ways, her victory. But we've seen Shiva become so much more than that over the years, where this character, I could see her being a villain again. I could see her being... She's a gray area. Hero and a villain, kind of like what we get out of Secret Six.
Yeah.
Where these are clearly still villains. Shiva's still, in my eyes, a villain, but there's an honor to her, a twisted honor, whatever it is. But she really cares about Dinah Lance. And in these moments, Shiva's got to step up and say, okay, you want to die here for her in her place, fine, we'll do that. The battle between her and Huntress all comes from the fact that Huntress, and we'll talk about the battle, we'll have to jump to that in a minute. The other area where we get, totally agreeing with you, another area where we get the option C is when Terry, this student who's been traveling around Black Canary, realizes, okay, I went to White Canary because I'm into martial arts. I want to be trained. I want to be something more. But I don't morally agree with her in what she's doing. She's kidnapped kids, and I'm now a part of this. You know, she's kidnapped a family. I'm a part of this. This isn't who I am. All right, Black Canary, I know where this kid is. I'll help you. Yeah. Giving Black Canary now the option to save this kid and ultimately put an end to the fight wait, let's take it one step further. Forgetting another letter of the alphabet, there's now option D.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we go all like D, E, F, and G all the way down the line.
I love seeing stuff like that, which was so funny about how we got on this little tangent, was because I thought before you were saying that, no, there's no option D. I'm like, what are you talking about, Jim? But there really was so many layers to the choices that they made in this issue that I thought were outstanding and brilliant. And I love thinking characters, thinking on their feet. These situations shouldn't end clean. The end result of this whole thing is really who won. It wasn't really the birds winning. There's a stalemate here again.
40 years
White Canaries. Well, but that's 40 years from now with Shiva, possibly.
Yeah.
Because Shiva could collect on it sooner. So, did she, you could collect it 40 years from now. That's not definite. That's not in writing. It's an agreement to cease hostilities at the moment because she respects Huntress from that battle. We'll talk, and we've got to jump back to talk to the specifics of that. But with White Canary, this battle's ended at the moment because of overwhelming numbers of fighters who can take her down. She has no chance at this moment. She's at a stalemate, the same stalemate her brothers are in. She wants to shame Black Canary, destroy her name, destroy the legacy of her mother. Why does she want to do this? Because that's what Black Canary did to her family. She had to kill her family out of shame. Now she's been shamed again.
Yeah.
This isn't over.
Oh, God, no. This is going to come back again.
Yeah, so this was a stalemate. It was not a victory. I love that. What a great ending, because it's not going to end clean like that. These are thinking characters who... basically, they did the right... Where was their victory? Sin's alive, Sin's family's alive. None of the birds died.
Yeah.
That's the victory, but I love that it's not clean. Yeah, and it's a little bit of a dirty ending, and that's good. I like my endings got a little grit to them.
And Huntress has a little bit of street cred.
Yeah.
So there's pluses, in there where I would say
a lot of street cred. Yeah. Shiva picks her up and basically says, "It would be my honor. I'm calling you an Iron Owl." I think is what she said. And picks her up. The street cred you're talking about, can we jump back to that, actually? Because you're right, street cred is what it was. The fight between them, Huntress knew she was going to lose bad, and was going to die. Gets hit right away, but there's a plan to how she's being hit. She is deliberately trying to get herself hit so there's so much blood that she can use it as a weapon, not because she thinks it's going to help her win, not because she thinks it's going to help her survive, but because she wants Shiva to remember that she was in a battle with Huntress. I love this character. I love the characterizations of her when Gail Simone writes her. She gets this character. Huntress absolutely positively rocks. And this is a great example of where that happens. But what works, too, Zinda's comments about Huntress throughout this issue just nail a home run. Lady Blackhawk is awesome, and I love those moments. These girls, you'd love to hang out with these girls because they've got to be an absolute riot.
Again, these are another group of people that probably wouldn't let us hang out with them.
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't think we're cool enough to hang with the birds. But just going through, cool stuff going, with art, art and story being told, and just the meshing of that. I love seeing these fight sequences going on because one, Shiva looks in a way bored. It's not a hardened threat, and Huntress has given it everything she's got. She's got that look of just kind of on her face as she's throwing the punches, as she's throwing them, and she was just blocking it. But as the fight goes on, you start seeing just this, the determination, just the raw, just that courage that Huntress has, and that does affect Shiva to the point where at the end you see her saying, "I respect you. You are a true fighter. You're a true warrior." And she's willing to, you think about it, Shiva very easily could have, when the opportunity was presented to her that, yeah, you promised to kill her and you can kill her 40 years from now, Shiva could have very easily said, no, I think I'll take her now. But Huntress earned that respect. Huntress earned that reprieve, earned that time for Shiva to want to either figure out another way around this or deal with this somehow, or even postpone it to, the distant future. So it's, I really like seeing just that transition, not only the coolness of the physical fighting, because this is multiple page physical battle that I was like, yeah, this is cool stuff, especially as she starts slowly collecting the blood. And I didn't know what she was going to do with it, what she was going to use it. And then once I saw it, I was like, oh, that's beautiful. That's brilliant.
7 issues in, Jim, I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to go out on a limb. This is my favorite book that DC publishes right now. I've been tossing between this and Secret Six. I got to say, these girls being back again, the way that they're being written, presented, the characterizations, these are A-list characters to me. They always have been. When this book went off the shelf and we were no longer had a Birds of Prey, it was a very sad moment for me because it was, bar none, one of my favorite books being published by DC. And to see them brought back to this level again with these kind of stories, we're going to talk in a couple minutes about issue 7, and this is just every month I'm so excited to pick this up and see what they're going to do next. Reading these issues again, it's not because of the show. I read them over and over again because I just want to bask in the experience. Shiva's costume, I actually want to talk about this. I love Shiva's costume. There's something about the whole look. She just seems like very impressive. There's something regal about her, something majestic about her as a fighter. Like, she carries herself as she's proud of who she is. There is a pride and an honor to her. And I love that concept in martial arts with a character like her. Her reputation, street cred, as you're called it, is for Shiva as a martial artist. It's got to be the most important thing, because that intimidation a lot of times is something that's used to put her up against the best fighters, to get her jobs, where does her income come from? Her reputation. If that reputation drops, she's done to a certain extent, or at least the amount of income that would come in with it. But it is also a pride and honor thing. I love it.
And just one quick thing we didn't mention that I just got to say how much I really digged was that quiet moment that Huntress took before the battle.
Yes.
It was, she's going into a fight figuring, I'm going to die. This is it. And you have that solitary moment where she's just sitting there praying, and it was just, I loved seeing that. It wasn't a massive, lengthy panels and all that. It was just the respect and reverence that there is in towards, faith. Whether you believe it or not, you got to understand that this character, she's she's old school Catholic. She's going to sit down there, and if she's facing that moment, where it's time to face death, she's going to have that one little moment where, thanking God for the gifts of life, thanking her for the good things that have happened.
Trying to make peace with the things that she's done that maybe she regrets too. There's so many things at that moment. I loved the peace of that moment because, you got to, before you say goodbye, be at peace with yourself.
Yeah.
And I love that at the end, though, it turns out to this whole new look on life. When your life flashes before your eyes, and when you have those moments where you've got to say goodbye to it all, and you realize that tomorrow's another day, and that these people that are around you care about you more than even you realized. It's something that we've seen since they've come back together. And it doesn't take away from just how bad they are when it comes to a fight. Like, Huntress can kick some serious butt, yet at the same time, I love the emotional moments between these characters. You believe they really care about each other because of deep circumstances they've been through. That's what I mean. It's a difference between being in turmoil and being shaken up.
Yeah.
This is a team that's not in turmoil. This team is together. One of them might get shaken up. One of them might be in turmoil. And the rest of them are there to help them. That's the difference between a team in turmoil and an individual that shakes up the story. And I'm glad to see the DC teams. Birds is a great example of them. But I'm glad to see the DC teams, as we're ending off this year, coming together. Seeing more of a concrete, who are the characters that are on this team? A couple players here and there can change and swap in and out, like Hawk and Dove being a part of this series now, I think is great. Savant and Creo coming back into the fold with this new concept, I think is fantastic. I like what they're doing. It adds something new, a new dynamic for these characters to play off of. But we got a core here with these three that to me are just dynamite and fabulous. And I'm not taking Oracle. Please don't get me wrong. Barbara Gordon is one of my all-time favorite characters, and what Gail's doing with her is tremendous. I take a difference between the leader of the birds and what Barbara does as a coordinator and what the actual birds do in the field.
Yeah.
And I love that there's that distinction in this book as well. That's one of the things I like about her portrayal of Barbara Gordon, actually, is that I feel like Barbara is really coordinating a whole bunch in what she does in her moments as a leader of Birds of Prey. And it's cool. It's because, to me, the field leader of this team has got to be Black Canary.
Yeah.
The other two have got to defer to her. Yet, doesn't take anything away from the two of them either. Just a fantastic read. You want to talk issue 7?
Oh, God, yes.
The quote-unquote first kickoff of the death of Oracle.
Yeah.
I feel like such a moron for not seeing this coming. Because I thought, like, who's going to be gunning for Oracle? Who's going to be killing Oracle? I love that the people gunning for Oracle, and are you reading the same way I am? They're gunning for Oracle because she has them gunning for her to kill, quote-unquote, kill Oracle.
Yeah.
But it seems to be going wrong.
I don't know if it's going wrong.
Well, but if you look at the end, there seems to be things happening that were unexpected. At least that's how I'm reading how the issue's ending off. I'm not saying going wrong is probably a strong word, but I don't know that it's exactly going according to Barbara's original design.
Yeah, probably not going exactly according to the original, but the fact that the team's getting attacked outside of when they're in civilian clothing, when they're not in formation ready for the fight kind of deal, that's not part of the plan. So that's definitely a little monkey wrench. But I don't think it's.
Do they know what she's doing?
Does the team? I'm assuming.
Okay, but have we seen verification of that?
We have not seen verification. We've only seen verification that Creote's involved with the plan.
And Savant.
Yeah, I meant to say Savant.
No, Creote. Yeah. I mean, Creote's there too.
Yeah, he's
I'm assuming Creote.
But Savant.
Well, although is he? I don't know. It really is Savant because there's this talk with Batman and Savant and Barbara later. So I'm guessing if Savant knows,
Creote's got to know, and if the team's got to know.
We haven't seen that though.
Right.
And I guess here's my question. If the team doesn't know, how are they going to react to her decision? Because they've been put into danger here. What if they don't know, Jim?
What if they don't know? Then, yeah, that'll be huge.
Yeah.
But here's my where I'm thinking Barbara's going to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my guess, is that Barbara Gordon, in the end of this, will be dead. To the rest of the world, Barbara Gordon will be dead. And here's why I'm saying that. If that list that was presented, the list of 13 names, one of the names on that list is James Gordon. So I think they're going to kill off, quote-unquote, Barbara Gordon, because Calculator now knows that Barbara Gordon is Oracle. He's figured that out. So by killing Barbara Gordon, she's going to then go underground in hiding, and Barbara Gordon won't exist anymore. There will always be a quote-unquote entity that is Oracle that, and they're going to tell Gordon the truth because they're going to trust in him, and Gordon's going to learn that Barbara Gordon is Oracle.
Wow. But it's
That's
the death of Oracle.
I know. It's why it's called the death.
So you think we're still going to have Oracle?
I think we're still going to have an entity.
It's not the death of Barbara Gordon, though.
But I think it's because Barbara Gordon and Oracle, it's the kind of the meshing of the person. I think it's kind of like a play on the name. Instead of saying the death of, if they said the death of Barbara Gordon, then we would all know that it's going to be.
We're in agreement that somehow at the end of this, there's going to be this presentation that see, I think it's going to be a presentation that Oracle's dead. Maybe I'm wrong. Though. Maybe it could be urine. I do see a quote unquote death of some sort.
Yeah.
A mass death. We're still going to have Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, we're still going to have Barbara Gordon. We're still going to have Oracle. And I think it's going to be, they're going to pretend that the person who was Oracle is now dead. And we'll have a quote-unquote new Oracle, which will be the original Oracle. It's kind of how I'm looking at this. And I took it when I was reading it, and this is just a guess this is really a guess on my part. And the reason I'm guessing is because James Gordon is on that list. There would have been no reason for him to be on that list if Barbara Gordon wasn't going to be around.
So we're okay with 11 other people who are connected with Oracle being still alive and connected to the new Oracle.
Right.
I guess following your logic, why would she not try to protect the 11 other people? I don't know. I guess the way you're presenting it, I see her trying to protect everybody on the list. So whatever the resolution is, and it might very well be your direction that you're talking about, where it is the death of Barbara Gordon. But I think however it's going to end, whether it's Oracle or Barbara Gordon or, whoever is dead in this whole thing, it's not going to be protect one. It's going to be to protect the entire list. And it's going to be done in such a fashion where it would protect the entire list.
Yeah, well...
So I agree with elements of what you're saying to a certain extent. I just don't think it takes it as far as I see it going. And in fairness, I guess I thought this was going to be really somebody hunting down, trying to kill Barbara Gordon for different reasons. I didn't see it coming so logically that she's like, everybody knows about Oracle. We need to do something about this. I love that. I mean, it's really great. She's talking to Bruce. She's saying, you're putting together Batman Inc. I know you need me. And Bruce is saying, this is your chance to get out right here. We could do this, and you can get out. You can lead a normal life. You can be done with all this. I love Bruce having that moment with her where in that moment, it's kind of, she writes a great Bruce in this.
Yeah.
Because there's that moment where you see him become Bruce Wayne, and through Barbara's eyes, we see he's Batman again. Yeah. What a great moment. She handled that so well there. And when I was looking at that, I'm like, ooh, I'm digging this. Bruce tells her, this is your chance, Barbara, get out. And she's like, you need me. I know you need me. Not just you, and the whole universe needs me. This is something, where I'm in this role. And this is really her opportunity to start over anew with all of this and be even more effective. This building that she's doing right now with, she's looking at, how can I make this whole operation? Gail Simone talked about this. This is an upgrade to the Birds operation. We are kicking it to the next level with this operation. So at the end, I don't see this about protecting one person on the list. I see this about protecting Bruce, Dick, Tim, Dinah, Helena, Stephanie, Charlotte, all of them, going all the way down the list. When they're done, this will be done in such a way that they're all safer with regards to the Oracle concept, whether it's Oracle or Barbara Gordon who dies, or however this is going to happen. This is really a way to put her in a different position. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be. I guess I didn't consider that possibility, but I agree with you. It's an option on the table. I don't know which I'm more comfortable with, because I love the Oracle name, so I'm hoping that sticks around after this. But yet, I love the concept of Barbara Gordon. I love seeing her with Jim. So would they take her off the table? I don't know. See, that's one of the things I'm intrigued about in this story is your option means that she's taken away from Jim Gordon.
Well, only in the public. That's why I'm thinking.
Well, but
that's why I'm thinking that they will tell him the truth.
But then I'm going to 100% disagree with you on that, because one of the reasons why everyone knows about Oracle is we let too many people in on the secret. So now we're going to kill her off and start letting people in on the secret again. I disagree with you on that.
Here's the deal: that list is also the people who have access. So
Jim Gordon doesn't have access,
but that's what, in the comic they're saying that, who has access? The people on that list. Bruce flat out asks her who's going to have access to the upper level elevators. And she said that list is who's going to have access. So that's why I'm saying that there's going to be something going on with Jim Gordon learning that Barbara is Oracle. I think that's
kind of what we're seeing in Detective Comics with Jim Gordon then? Is that what you're seeing? Where he can use her facilities, she's helping out the police? Is that what you see happening?
I don't know if... I literally think that the complete secret identity of Oracle is going to go away to Jim Gordon. He's going to know that Barbara is Oracle, that Barbara is after... And they'll probably tell him the story that after Barbara got injured, she had to do something. And this is... they won't mention the whole Batgirl side of it, because that would kind of throw things off, I think.
See, that to me, if you start saying that she's Oracle, you might as well mention the Batgirl side of it. Why wouldn't you?
I'm just thinking that would be a protection on the layer between her and Batman.
How? Why does her being Batgirl have anything to do with the identity of Batman?
If she's Batgirl, that means she probably knows who Batman is.
If she's Oracle, she probably knows who Batman is.
Well, true. But you're looking at who was she friends with? Who did she hang out with as a child? Dick Grayson.
As Oracle... See, I guess as Oracle, I'm assuming that Jim Gordon knows that Oracle gives Batman information.
Yeah.
So...
But I'm thinking it's... you look at it, if he knows that Barbara is Oracle, he's only going to know that it was the Joker attack on her that made her do this. She wanted to step up and she wanted to help out the heroes, and she started helping the heroes. Because it was the Joker, that's the initial...
What from her childhood do you think is going to reveal anything about Batman?
The relationship between her and Dick Grayson.
What relationship between her and Dick Grayson? I guess I don't see that as being... Something that would reveal that he's Batman.
I'm just thinking, when you start looking at somebody, you want to figure out who they are. You start looking at who they were hanging out with, who did they date, who did they go to prom with, kind of deals. And you start looking, you see this connection. You're like, okay, what does the connection between the daughter of the police commissioner and this, adopted son of a billionaire have in common? Well, this daughter we now know is Batgirl.
I think the second you tell him that it's Oracle, I think you're opening up the same can of worms. She's been at multiple events with the Waynes since she's been Oracle. I mean, I guess I...
But remember, we now have a connection between the Waynes and... Or we now have a connection between the Waynes and Batman that's not a direct, tie. So she could, as Oracle, hang out with the Waynes.
So couldn't Dick Grayson have been then her connection into working with Batman Inc.?
But
because he is the son now, I guess going off of your logic here, how does telling? I guess what I'm saying is I don't see telling him that she was Batgirl connects that she knows who Batman is, or that just means that she was Batgirl. Because Dick Grayson being the son of Bruce Wayne now implies why Barbara Gordon would have a role in Batman Inc. for Jim Gordon. Because I'm going off of your logic here. With the way Batman Inc. is set up, it does cover that relationship. Because the way Batman Inc.'s been set up, Bruce Wayne has been funding Batman all along. That's Dick Grayson's connection now. So, see, I guess I'm not entirely convinced that Jim Gordon's going to know when we're done with all this. But if he did, I guess what I'm saying is, why would Barbara, if she's going to come clean to let her dad know that, hey, I'm not dead... If we're going to see, I don't know that I believe necessarily it's the death of Barbara Gordon. Talking about possible options, I agree with you that's on the table, so I'm not disputing that. But let's say that's not what happens, then everything we're discussing right now is a moot point.
Right.
But if it is the death of Barbara Gordon, and if she's going to tell Jim Gordon, because she might not, it may be to protect him that she's not going to.
I don't know. As I said, these are just theories and throwing through my head. So I'm trying to guess and figure out.
I guess if you're going to come clean to him, if that ends up happening... Why wouldn't you come clean about everything?
And she could very easily come clean.
Because, I mean, this might be her chance to say, Dad, I'm going underground because there's a Batgirl along. Or I don't know. I'm curious to see where that goes. That's if that happens.
Yeah, and we're having a big discussion on something that we don't even know. And
do you think there's a possibility that there's going to be a new identity other than Oracle?
See, that's the other side of it. That's the other side of the coin.
I guess that's what I'm saying. There is another... I guess I was literally taking it as the death of Oracle.
Yeah, and there'll be a whole
the concept of Oracle.
There'll be a new person that is the information, and maybe she'll even go by a different name, which I don't know. I don't know what name, because Oracle was such a cool name.
Well, that's where I'm having trouble.
So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen there. That's why I was thinking Death of Oracle is a play on Death of Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
And
except
that's what
I like Barbara Gordon as a I don't know. It's
and I like
I'm 100% with you. I can see it either way. So I'm not disputing you as much as I think a lot of what you're hearing from me is, I don't want to see Oracle done as a name. I also don't want to see Barbara Gordon gone. I don't know. I'm very torn. Which emotionally, this is where we should be as readers with this story. Yeah. This is you're shaking us up with it, which is fun. I actually care. We had this geeky tangent right now. We're talking about well, can she or can't she tell Dad? And if she does, well, how much does Dad need to know? And why? I mean, that's half the fun of a storyline like this, that we actually. None of this is talked about on the page. We're actually, because we care about the story, we're thinking about this. And that's a sign of a great story.
Because here's one of the things I was thinking about, with, and this is something I don't think would actually happen, but I'm just throwing it out there because I was thinking, what if they did this? If when they recreate the Oracle character, calculators like, I killed her, you're not Oracle, and you have Wendy on the other end. Saying, no, you killed her, now it's I'm in. Like kind of that whole thing where, because we're seeing her
So now we're going to make Wendy a target?
But Wendy, think about what's Wendy's target? Well, her family. Oh, her father is the person going after her. So he's not going to kill her.
But are we just hiding Oracle from the calculator? See, I'm going to say I totally disagree with that. Because now we're making another person a target. What happens if the calculator's enemies find out about Wendy? Because he doesn't... Not every villain loves the calculator. So now we're making Wendy a target. That, to me, defeats the purpose of making... The whole point of this, from Oracle's standpoint, is to protect everybody. I don't see her taking a girl like Wendy, who she's tried to take under her wing and help out, like kind of rehab her, and all of a sudden saying, hey, guess what? if we tell your dad that you're Oracle, I just don't see that happening. Hey, but I like you.
And here's the thing: as I'm saying these words,
I don't see that happening.
As I'm saying these words, I'm thinking, yeah, that's a really stupid idea. I'm going to pull that one off the table as a possibility and say, okay, that's an idea.
Thanks for your help as proxy, though. But let me stick the knife in and turn it.
This is proxy, the decoy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, she really would become a proxy then. I don't know. It's interesting to me. I'm with you though that, and all joking aside, one of the things I'm really enjoying about talking this with you is I've been doing the same thing. My head's been wrapping around like, where could this go? When you heard the story presented, I was like, oh, this is really, wow, somebody's going to be gunning for it and all that. It's so much cooler that that's not what this is.
It's not at all.
I mean, it is. That's there, but she's engineering it because she's got an overall end game. I'm going to be very curious to find out who actually knows what's being done here.
And what's the end game, the final results? Now, something I want to make sure we're both on the same page, because I took it at 100% Savant is still on Team Oracle, even though he's telling,
It didn't look like it at the beginning of the issue.
Right, yeah. And as I was reading that, I was sitting there thinking, no, this has got to be a ruse. He's got to be doing a fake out, because there's no way he did it. And even he acknowledged how, it was a beautiful writing, because it kept me questioning it. And then I see the panels where it's Barbara and him talking. Is like, I don't know if I convinced him. I'm sure you did okay. Kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, he's still on Team Oracle. Okay,
and she's okay that he didn't convince him. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I think that was part of the end game here as well. She knew that it might not 100% work like that.
Right.
That's why I'm curious as to who really knows.
Yeah,
and it may turn out that the whole team does. I guess what I'm anxious to read as a reader, I'm anxious to see how do Dinah, Helena, and Zinda feel about this if they do know. Do Hawk and Dove know?
See, I'm thinking they got to know.
But look at the situation they were put into.
Yeah.
Very, very vulnerable at that moment. Somebody really could have died there.
Yeah, and I think it's...
Would Barbara do that? Would they put themselves in that position? This is where I'm saying I don't think the plan is going the way that Barbara intended. Unless none of these guys know, and she's doing that on purpose, trusting that they're going to get themselves out of the situation. So that's where the situation at the end is either clearly outside of Barbara's plan, or it's in Barbara's plan, and she's trusting them to handle it without them fully knowing what's being... Will they find out at the end that she did this, or do they already know? I don't know.
I think they know the broad picture. This is just a little deviation. There's always variations on a plan.
Sure.
And there's always going to be, especially when you're dealing with when you're dealing with a supervillain who's not an idiot. They're dealing with a very intelligent, very calculating, if you will, villain. But
give me a brick.
But they are dealing with, Oracle's equal on the villain side. So there's always going to be variations to it. I don't think she was planning on having them initiate the attack here. She probably was figuring, okay, we can do it later, but Calculator kind of threw her a curveball and initiated the attack when they weren't, expecting it, when they weren't ready for it. So, and I think I think Barbara has told the whole team everything that's going on.
We don't know that, though.
No, we don't. But that's my opinion. I'm assuming that.
Right.
And we'll find. I'm sure we will get the full truth later on eventually. Well,
we are in total agreement there. I think that's what's interesting me in the story is, I think because this story's gone into a direction that I didn't expect. That, with the death of Oracle being a death of the concept, really kind of protecting everybody around her, being driven by her, all bets are off to me as far as who knows and how much they know. So, because she's really just filling Bruce in at this point in time. So I'm wondering how much of her squad really knows what's going on. It just seems strange to me that they would leave themselves vulnerable like that, which proves that there's a deviation to the plan, one way or another. Either they were attacked when it was unexpected, or... I love it. I think it's one of the cool things about the story is I know it's all going to be explained because Gale always does that as a writer. So those are all things that I am going to figure out in the story. But this is a 4-parter. It always amazes me, all the stuff that she sets up in the first issue of a 4-parter, that I'm like, how are you going to pay all this off in 3 issues? I'm like, what?
She does it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about her writing is that I'm always left with so many questions at the beginning because I actually care about hearing the answers. It's never good when the questions are posed and you don't care. It's great when you do. And to the point where we're having a very passionate discussion about things we're speculating about, trying to like sit there and say, you're wrong, I'm wrong, you're right, whatever.
Yeah, and I tell you, just again, another story that, I don't know if we mentioned this already, but I just got to throw it out there just about the beautiful artwork. Oh, this, again, was just,
two different art teams on both issues, and both of them are consistent with that.
And it's, it's one of the things that, is really gotten me, very, I've really enjoyed with Birds of Prey. You mentioned earlier how it's your number one. It's my number two. And my number one is another Gail Simone. It's Secret Six, and it's tough because when I read Birds, I do get that, it's now number one, and then I read Six, and Six jumps up, and it is that tough battle going between the two of them. But one of the reasons has been just the art style, the art selection, and just everything that goes through the physical, the play out of the physical drama, especially this opening sequence with Oracle, with Barbara in her chair fighting off the thugs, and I love seeing her still be able to throw down. She's trained for wheelchair combat. She's trained for her situation. She's trained for how am I going to deal with these, with people attacking me in this situation. And I love seeing that aspect of her character. It's, again, that whole thing where trained by the bat means you're prepared. And she's been trained by the bat. She knows what to do and how to expect and, where she's going to go from there. And I love seeing that about her. And that's why, as I say, I'm thinking they're going to kill her off. I hope they don't, because I love these moments with Barbara Gordon. I love I like seeing her as a person interacting with the universe.
I think this is DC's best published, for me. This is me personally, DC's best published good guy team book. Right behind it, I would say, is Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
As far as consistent quality month after month, these are books that I just think are just nailing it, home run out of the park every single month.
I will co-sign the number one hero team book because Six is the villain book. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, and just say for me, it's my absolute favorite book right now, though. I just. These last two issues really just cemented that for me, where I've been teeter-tottering. I've been like, oh, no. But I think it's fun sometimes to talk about on the show, that there is a hierarchy to our reading, and that, it's not, because a lot of times we get accused of, you guys just love everything, which isn't the case at all. We don't talk about every single book on the show. But this is a great example of, I think it's fun to show people that, we've all got favorite books. And whether everybody listening agrees with you and I on what our two favorite books are, or not, it doesn't matter. I think we all as readers have those top-of-the-stack books that hit there. I think it's fun to show that, we do have those hierarchies. Jim, I think the next book we should definitely talk about is Secret Six.
Oh, yeah, especially because, it's funny, you mentioned how with Birds, these last two issues locked that in your number one spot. The last two issues of Six are what locked that as my number one book. Mm-hmm. It was, I remember when we were... couple episodes ago we were talking about Red Robin and how I was like, I'm feeling like my Tim is coming back. I'm like, maybe Six has got a competition, for another book to, go to the top spot. And then I finished up the Scarterra story arc. I'm like, no, it's locked there. This is the top of the goal for me. And I was just like, really it was one of those things where you get these combat, these action, the little comedic moments, and then you get these personal drama. Just the stuff with Laurie just had me going, oh my god, this is awesome. And then at the end with Bane and Scandal, and just that whole personal humanized connection that these really kind of horrific people have these moments. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is why I love this book. It goes through every emotional gambit for me. It gives me visually some great, looking comics. Story-wise, it's a story that I can read, reread, and then read a third time, go, hey, I didn't notice that before. Sweet. It's this whole, concept of, yes, they are here, they're villains, but they're villains with a code. They have their own personal way they look at life. They're not the boo-ah-ha-ha, I'm going to conquer the universe type of deal. And I love seeing that interaction. I love seeing them as a team, especially over these issues where they've just really, the concept of who they are, what they are, why they are, has, really gelled together. And I'm like just so looking forward to what the future's going to hold for these teams. And I was just like, wow.
And just to clarify, my love for Secret Six hasn't changed any since it first started being published. What happened was birds came back. That wasn't in there before. Secret Six has been my number one favorite book since it was launched. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, did birds come back in a huge way. So that's really where I'm at. And I mean, it's fun to have this honest discussion about this because this is easily my number 2 book.
Oh God, yeah, this
easily.
Is, yeah.
And I mean, it's close.
Yeah, it's a tough battle.
Tell me, somebody I want to compliment. First of all, I love Jim Calafiore. I've been a huge fan of, like I said, since Aquaman. I know I've broken record with that on the show. But I've seen Jason Wright's work now in a couple of DC books. And as a colorist, wow, great job. I love what he brings atmosphere-wise. I think he was the glue that was holding this book together when he did have the art change, because I was loving what Nicola Scott was doing. And then when you change to a new artist, even though I love, and it was great to see during that transition time, I had Jason Wright helping me get used to Jim Calafiore drawing 6. Now I absolutely adore the artwork in this book. I think what Jim Calafiore's doing is everybody as good as what I was loving with Nicola Scott, who I think is tremendous as well. This book has done very well with art teams, because it's a book that I think deserves to have A-plus top artists, and it's had them consistently throughout.
Oh God, yeah. And you talk about just, with our team, there's one thing that this, especially this, issue 28 really had gone for me that I always love when I see this in a combat sequence. You really get the feel of the chaotic nature of war, especially this battle era. They're dealing with, the primitive weapons. They're dealing with the swords, the bows and arrows. It gets a little bit, you get personal with it. You get up close, with, a gun, rifle and all that kind of modern warfare. You can kill somebody from a mile away and there's no up close. You don't look in their eyes, you stab them, as you thrust the sword in here. Here you get this chaos, you get this pure anarchy, and a lot of that is it is the visual stuff with the pencils and the inks that are wonderful, yes. But a lot of this is that color tone, with the heavy red tones, with just the the background. You have the up close, bright, look of the face, and then in the background you see this chaos, this complete carnage going on in the reds and the shadowy type of tint to them. So it's a beautiful meshing of these pencils and inking going on with this color usage. I really, really love that.
Yeah, and the great example of where all this works too is when you see things like the handprint on the face of Ragdoll, and you get these up close personal moments that you're talking about. This kind of combat, you're going to see the types of things that you see in any Barbarian comic, any Barbarian movie or TV show, where there's close quarter combat. I loved the fact that Deadshot was running out of ammo. Yeah. And did run out of ammo, and he's telling Laurie, hey, right now, on the battlefield, you're not able to tap into your powers. Why don't you do me a favor? Find anything that I can shoot. And do it now. Yeah. Great use on the squad of just saying, hey, you can do something useful. And she takes that to heart in this whole thing. And I really, really loved seeing that moment. I love seeing Machiste and what he was going through, and that he was being possessed by the ultimate Demos, the big bad of the Warlord world. I love that for a Warlord fan. I was a big fan of the last Warlord series, and it was great to see that this echoed so much of what was working there, and seeing the Six have to deal with this world was tremendous. And Jim Calafiore draws a mean dragon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a big fan of fantasy fiction, and Shannara books are books that are important to me. I love Tolkien stuff. This is the kind of work that really works well in comics as well. And it was great to see this superhero story set in or supervillain story set in such a fantasy world. And I really loved how this all played out. Bane and Scandal have this beautiful moment between the two of them. She basically killed him for all extents and purposes, and there's forgiveness between the two of them, which talk about a twisted world that he can sit there and say, I understand it, I wish I could be the better dad to you, that in all these moments, understanding that she's got these emotional scars that put him in this place. Did you see this team? I think we had to talk about the team. We're getting the Six back that started this series, yes, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that ending this way?
No.
I'm so glad, but
yeah, oh God, yeah, and I had no idea. I was thinking one of them was going to stay there.
Me too. I thought it was going to... They teased Catman?
I kept going back and forth between Catman and Bane.
Yes.
Couldn't figure out which one of them was going to stay. Then I started thinking, Catman and Huntress aren't done yet. So Catman's going to come back. Bane's going to stay there, is how I was thinking it was going to play out. But, this scene, you're talking about this great scene between Bane and Scandal. Once again, it's one of those things where I mentioned earlier how just the way the coloring was working. You got them very clear, with the normal, the correct normal tones on them as they're hugging and as, he's explaining, like, he wanted to conquer this so she would have, a place to live in peace. And that would be like her, she would be the princess of this land. She wouldn't have to worry about anything. Everything would just be, she would be at peace finally in her life. And I love the line she has, "A terrible thing for a kind reason. The very definition of love as I understand it." And I thought that was just a great moment between the two of them. But as you have this really tender moment around them, you see all the battle going on. And they use the heavy red and orange tone to kind of separate them, kind of like that spotlight of light on them. I thought this, for me, was just one of those really cool story moments, but also a great artistic moment.
But it's also, that moment shows what villainy is. It's a lot of times just a twisted and distorted view of the world. His ideas of nobility, what he considers being noble, what he considers love, and ultimately in the end, like what does Mr. Freeze consider love? What do all these? I love this villain exploration. I think what makes these characters endearing is that you can't help but feel for them in some way. You get creeped out by the fact that you do because of how wrong everything they're doing is, yet your heart's with them to a certain extent, and it makes you feel dirty. Like I almost want, you want to take like a Brillo after reading this book. But that's what I love about it. It's so different than anything else. And you're right about your feel. Even just having this conversation right now, I'm like, well, I said Birds is my favorite, but this book is so good. But no, and I'm going to stick with that. But that's one of the things that I love about the emotion that the Six draws up for me. I love these characters, and they're people. I'm so satisfied that it looks like we're going to have consistently the same team continuing afterwards.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Because they've banded together because of, in many ways, those feelings of camaraderie that have come through all this.
Though I do want to see King Shark stick around, man. He's another one of those cool characters that has some funny moments. He and and even they show him and Ragdoll fighting back and forth. And when the dragon's sitting there whipping around, he's like Arthur Curry's fish sack. That was close. Just the little panel in there in the bottom part as this giant part of the tail is smacking right between him and Ragdoll. Ragdoll is flying off of, just from the shock and the trauma of it. But I like this character. He's one that, I want to see more of this character. Hopefully he'll be around, whether it's a
Well, it says Cowabunga. I'm a love working with you smelly jerks. I don't know how this is going to work. Because you see a lot of characters at the end of this issue. So who are... I guess, do we have a determination who the Six are?
We don't have a definite naming of them, but I'm looking at that we have a pretty solid idea where it's going to go through. And I think we may even have, like, some of these other Six that we're talking about, how we'd like to see them stick around. Maybe there'll be a Secret Six reserve status, and occasionally they'll have to pull somebody in. But for me, I'm saying Alice is probably going to leave, because not only did it look like she had some closure with just her father, but there was also closure with her as a person, because she got to see this pure chaos, this pure nastiness that is war. And I think that kind of, got rid of some of her hatred that she has, some of that teen angst kind of stuff that made Alice really cool and a really nice character. And but I think she's seeing a different side of life, and she, especially with the ending where she brings that healer in, and her father's healed now. I think she's going to be done and moving on. Maybe come back later on at another time, but I don't think she's going to have as much hatred towards the world.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this is going to turn out. This is very interesting for me to see what route they're going. The epilogue, I have to talk about this.
Amen.
One of my favorite moments for the book, because Giganta gets to get a one-up on Ryan Choi's killer. Basically by the fact that he did the hiring in that moment. Just this, she couldn't torture him enough. I mean, I wanted to see this so bad with Dwarf Star. I was glad to see that Giganta cares. Because I loved that about All New Adam. I loved seeing their relationship. It made me see a different side of this character. And, I almost want to see... I could actually do a miniseries of Gigantic beats up Dwarf Star. I would read that.
Oh, big time. And it was funny because this is what I really wanted to see this guy get at. And I was so happy to see how it went down. Mm-hmm. You know, this is going to be a multiple day, slow, painful death for him. This wasn't going to be a quick.
Do you think
easy.
he's dead?
I'm hoping. I really do hope that he is, dead and gone and just, because I don't think this is just a beatdown, and I'm hoping he doesn't get away from her.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if he winds up... Because we didn't see him die, which to me in comics is always a pretty good sign that he's still around. Because I do... All right, I'm gonna go on this end. I like the villain.
Yeah.
So I don't know... And would Gale kill him? I don't know that she necessarily did. I think it's deliberate that we're left to wonder what happened to him.
True.
Because we saw him hurt really, really bad. And would she hurt him really, really bad and leave him to deal with pain for months and months and months? That's also a different kind of, is killing too good for him, so to speak? And I could see Gigantic going that route.
Well, that's why I'm thinking a 3-day slow death kind of massive torture.
Why does it have to be 3 days of, intense torture where he's left hospitalized for months, dealing with the pain?
Because Giganta knows the rule that if, whatever you do to somebody, if they survive it, they're coming back for payback. Mm-hmm. I think Giganta knows that, and she's not going to make that kind of mistake. Because, the reason I'm just thinking that it does end with death is just that final panels where we're not seeing what's going on, and she's just kind of in my head, I hear a very calm voice as she's talking. Okay, let's see here. Let's put a little duct tape over your mouth so you'll stop begging for your life, and shall we begin? And kind of just...
Wait, let me clarify. I'm not saying you're wrong. That is a possibility and where that could go. I just think it's a cool character to kill off. So, and there's always, one of the great things about comics is you can kill a villain and bring him back, too. Yeah. Or does he shrink and escape, ultimately? I don't know.
She did take away the belt from him.
Right.
So, and, he came after her with the knife. Of course, she grew a little bit of size and grabbed and basically crushed his arm.
Right, I love that.
So, right there, that's, he's down a couple limbs.
And digits. You saw the fingers afterwards. They're mangled.
She kind of messed him up really good there. And it was one of those things where I was glad to see that happen because, we both really liked Ryan and
loved Ryan.
And it's funny because I loved Ryan, but that scene where they showed him getting killed and all that, I thought that was just a beautifully written scene. So I was like, comic wise, story wise, this is a good story. I'm sad to see it's a guy I really care about, but you can't argue with the fact that was a good story.
Well, I liked the idea of what it was setting up for Titans. I didn't like the character they used. There's a distinction there. I still don't like the character they used.
Right.
I didn't consider Ryan Choi expendable.
I agree completely with you. But
it has to be a character. See, this is tough because you want to kick off a series by killing a character that people care about. I'm very torn on that. To me, it's Ryan Choi wasn't. I would kill Ray Palmer first. Except I'm liking. I say that, and I'm liking what Jeff Lemire's doing over at. I'm probably butchering his last name, but I love what he's doing over at the co-feature with All New Adam, and the fact that could be a series. So I'm not anti Ray Palmer. I think my attachment rate to Ryan Choi is so much stronger. I'm just very torn. I like the idea of the Adam family. Keep the Adams.
Yeah, if it was me, I would have kept Ryan alive. But granted, though, on the other side,
who would you have killed?
That's what I was just about to say. I'm trying to think who could we have killed off. Let's see here. Hawkman was already dead. No, see that's a toughie. I don't know who you could kill off in his place because. You look at it, it's got to be a character that's...
I'd be terrible at killing off heroes.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you can't kill him. He's cool.
Come on, he's cool. That's a neat character.
Look what you throw... okay, let's say Connor Hawk's not doing anything right now. Let's kill him off. No, I like Connor Hawk. Yeah. I don't know. So I would be terrible with this.
Yeah, see, on one hand, the one person that does pop in my mind is someone that could have gotten killed, even though he couldn't have. Well, you hear what I'm... You're about to hear why I say that, okay? Because I was thinking, Arsenal, Roy, would have been a character that, he would have had that same type of reaction, You know, if Red Arrow had still been if everything that happened to him in Cry for Justice hadn't happened, with his little girl being killed and with his arm getting ripped off, if none of that had happened, he would have been a character I would have said they could have killed off for Titans.
Wow.
Because he would have had that same effect that killing off Ryan Choi would be. He's a character that there's no way they'd kill off Red Arrow. Oh my God, they just did.
Arguably, they would have had a bigger effect.
Yeah, probably.
Look at and here's the reason why. That's not taking anything away from my love of Ryan Choi, but if you look at the longevity of Arsenal,
yeah,
and I'm not saying that they should have done it. I'm saying, but look at think of the backlash that would have come off of killing Red Arrow. I mean, look at the backlash over chopping his arm off and killing his kid. Oof, I don't know.
Yeah, see, and with everything that happened to him, I wouldn't want to see them do that to the guy.
The Titans are diabolical now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I do like the Titans book. I'm enjoying what's going on in that book. It's just interesting, the death of Ryan Choi. And I don't have an answer on who I would have killed instead, because you had to kill a hero to make that moment count. It's just, to me, I didn't think Ryan's story was done. And that's anytime you're killing a hero, to me, you're killing a hero because their story's done. But that's me speaking as a fan, because Ryan Choi really wasn't appearing anywhere.
Yeah.
I guess, to a certain extent, if nobody was using him, then his story is done and he's been shelved. You can always bring him back. I hope he does come back.
Yeah, well, that'd be a tough one to bring back, though.
Why? He brought back everybody else.
Well, without some big, you look at how somebody dies,
right?
Like if there's a very definitive death there, that was a old school sword through the chest death. That wasn't some mystical explosion or ran himself into the Speed Force or something like that.
Or blowing up in a helicopter.
Who blew up in a helicopter?
Green Arrow.
Oh. Okay.
I guess the point I'm making to you is the dead's not dead in comics.
Yeah, sure.
Not everybody's died in mystical ways. Green Arrow blew up in a helicopter with Superman watching.
Yeah, but he got brought back by Hal Jordan Spectre.
From heaven. I mean, that was dead. Yeah. There's no more dead than that.
Okay, well, point taken.
Yeah. Ryan Choi could be brought back from tiny heaven.
Yeah. Do you think he's tiny, or did he go? They let him go back to full size?
I don't know. That's a good point. Do you think there is a tiny heaven?
Well, there's got to be.
Could be there with tiny Elvis.
Yeah.
I don't know. They should bring him back on Evil Tuesday. I don't know. Ryan Choi's a character. See, the funny part is, do I think we're going to see Ryan Choi back? No. I really don't think that. I would love to see it happen, but I think you would have to have an author who is motivated to bring him back for a long-term reason. The only way I ever see him coming back is if they give Gail Simone a team book where there's an opportunity to bring Ryan Choi, because I know she would bring him back.
Yeah.
I would hope she would bring him back, because I'd love to see him again. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not a fan of hero death.
Yeah. No. Here, actually, just a question for you, basically changing topic back to Secret Six.
Good idea.
Now, with the pardons they were promised, because they were promised pardons, they did exactly what they were supposed to. Is the Wall going to honor her agreement? Are their slates clean?
I don't know.
And will it be the other team as well, or will it be only the people she sent in?
I don't know.
Because that I could see...
Well, no. That was brought into the discussion point, that the Wall accepted that.
Okay.
Because remember, at the end...
Yeah.
My impression was everybody was standing in that room, the agreement's been honored.
Okay. So they all got, free, clean slates and all that stuff. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you think about...
And what does that mean? Well, now, and I'm under the impression that because of this, they're working for the Wall now, right?
Well, I think...
She's trying to use them a la Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah, kind of like... I think they're still going to be an independent contract, but she wants to use them. So she's going to be their employer.
Well, I think what she's trying... Let me clarify that. I think she's trying to get them under her thumb like a Suicide Squad. Not that they would be under that same concept of Suicide Squad, but she would be a squad that she could rely on for those missions that she doesn't want anybody else to know. Isn't that how you're taking what she's trying to do?
Yeah,
that's what she would want to do. She wants to control them in that way. And having a Deadshot a part of that group and things like that. Remember, Deadshot wasn't a part of her squad. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure she gave a pardon to have... She's got Deadshot now.
Yeah.
By giving the pardons and by, pulling them for these missions, that puts Deadshot in a spot where she now has an opportunity to utilize him, which she's wanted. We've seen that since the Secret Six birds. I'm sorry, Secret Six and Suicide Squad one shot. We got to see that the Wall really wants him back in the fold. Mm-hmm. And that actually went down there. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this all plays out.
Now here's the other thing I'm thinking. Well, speaking of birds,
yes.
Actually, the other thing I'm thinking, the thing that always, Huntress and Catman issue was because he was a villain. He had this criminal record. His record is now clean, but he's not the same man he was before. With everything he went through with his kid, what he did to those people, he's not the same guy. Is there, are we still going to have problems? Is there going to be something that happens between those two?
I don't know. Got to see. I want to see what their relationship looks like now.
Yeah.
Or maybe can she help him reconnect with that guy? Because I do feel that she understands him. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, I should say. She's grown. She's not the same person she was.
Yeah.
But that either could be a hindrance to this, or it could help it. Her growth that we've seen with her, I think, has been phenomenal. I'm anxious to see that. I'm so glad she's back on both of these books. Because you're right, I care. I actually do want to see that. I don't know, it's fun.
Lasers! He's got lasers!
Jim, I want to talk about Justice League of America number 51. This is a book, I've talked about this a lot on the show ever since James Robinson took over as writer. In particular, with the idea of what my hopes were for this team, that it would gradually build to a team that was not in turmoil anymore. Actually, talking about turmoil, Justice League has been a team that my big problem has been, we had like Vixen's squad. We had what happened with Black Canary before that. And then, we've had this new changing of the guard. And I felt like in the cases of the Justice League team, we've never seen the payoff of them becoming the Justice League. The team fully coming together. I'm a fan of shakeups. I've got no problem with that. My problem is when a creative team is only given a run long enough that you never get to see where were they intending to go with this?
Yeah.
How was the team supposed to come together? Where, what was the overall direction supposed to be? With a team like the Justice League, if you're going to shake them up, if you're going to put them in turmoil, you have to get to that end game of not only seeing the team come together, but then having a nice run of them being a team, where you get to see, why does this team even deserve to have the moniker Justice League of America? My excitement has come from the fact that James Robinson is going to have a nice long run to be able to do this. So we got to see that JSA, JLA crossover. We got to see this team kind of gradually been put together. The Crime Syndicate arc has been the one where I've been really hoping for this. We're finally starting to see a team. Like, they've come together. We got all the players on the field. What does it mean to see them as a team? How are they going to react as a squad? How are they going to help each other on the battlefield? We get to see multiple moments of this throughout. We also get to see, why are the other heroes not here? If the Crime Syndicate's there, why are they not in there? Well, there's a big giant bubble over the city. Where did the bubble come from? I love that we don't know that till the end of the issue. But it really is. And in that moment in the beginning, there's some interesting comments from Superman. And it was interesting to see how Superman was reacting, because all the heroes have tried everything possible to break through this bubble and to go in to help out. And they're all feeling frustration. And they're like, we've got a team in there of Justice League members who are an untried squad. They haven't been around that long together. And Superman's like, wait a minute. Hang on a second here. I know we're all frustrated out here, but check this out. These guys are tried and true heroes. They've been tested in the field of battle. They've been in life or death situations many, many times. Yes, as a group, they've just come together. But as individuals, they've done this, and they are now the Justice League of America. And, we're going to trust them in there to handle this situation. I love that we find out later the whole end game was Superman was absolutely correct to feel this way, because they had to make a decision on the field of battle. Hey, this Omega creature, this Omega man, has set up a scenario where the whole Earth is going to be destroyed from his, or take some serious damage.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty.
And they have to make a decision as a squad to say, our first order of business of the Justice League is to protect everything outside of this area. What can we do to contain the damage? What can we do to make sure that people outside are not hurt because of this? And that's where Jade uses her powers. I know I'm jumping ahead of that, but you kind of almost have to, when you're talking about what happened in the beginning, you have to take a look at how that actually even happened. It's something that I've really been enjoying about this book. I like the team lineup a great deal. Before we jump into the actual rest of the book, Jim, there was an announcement this week on The Source, and I can't encourage our listeners to, if you don't read the Source blog regularly, you need to do that. It's updated daily. Really one of the best things on DC's site. Cover previews, news about upcoming things, and little teaser tidbits like the fact that we're getting a Green Lantern on this team in the spring. Well, this leaves me to the question mark. If a Green Lantern's going to be on there, first of all, who would you want to see as a Green Lantern? But second of all, first thing you asked me when I mentioned this today when you came over was, what does that mean for Jade?
Yeah.
I wonder that too, because I love Jade on this team. I really like her there. But going to the other direction, who would you like to see as a Green Lantern on the team?
I'd like to see John Stewart. And the reason I throw out John is because he does have that kind of quality to him that makes him a great team member. You know, all the Green Lanterns are, you know, they're solid team. Any one of them, I don't want to knock any of them. Have anyone say, "Well, you know, hell," and you know, and Kyle, I'm not knocking them. I'm saying John's character, his personality, you know, for me is a great team member personality, and he's just that guy who's there. He's supporting. You know, you can turn to him, you look to him for support, guidance, for experience, but you also look to him. He's never lost the humanity that is, you know, John Stewart. He now has the ring. He has the power, but there is always still the man there. That he's never lost that. And for Hal, for Kyle, both, they've had those moments where they've had that immortal type of power. And they've had that thing where it just, I don't know, it just, sometimes for me, I don't want to say they don't fit, but they don't. Mm-hmm. You know, John is that guy. He's that person that, you know, if I had to pick any Green Lantern, I always would go to John as my go-to guy just because I know he's got the power, I know he's got the experience, but I also know he is still 100% just a guy underneath, you know, within, you know, underneath the whole costume, everything. John Stewart is still just that guy, and that's what I always that's why he's one of my go-to guys.
So Hal under the costume is not still that guy.
I know.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, it is. You know,
I can't believe you're actually going to dignify this with a response. You know I'm teasing you. I was funny when I actually would have mentioned this on the site, and I'm not going to. I'm teasing, so let's not even go there. But I mentioned first that I was really excited when Hal Jordan was announced to be a part of this run. I understand why it changed directions. So I was thinking Hal at first, but then I did end up with my end result was John Stewart. I'm kind of rethinking now. What if it's the Tangent Green Lantern?
Ooh.
They said it's a Green Lantern. They didn't specify it had to be from our universe. Because she's kind of left without a world. Where's she go from here?
That could be as well. And that could actually be explained within the story arc and all that. So, yeah.
John Stewart, though, if we're going to go with our current Green Lanterns, the ones from our universe, amen. Yeah. I totally agree with you with John Stewart. Because I think he would add something to the team. I don't want to... Here's the funny part, though. I say that, and I don't want to see Jade gone.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I definitely don't want to see her gone. Or if she were to go anywhere, I would actually like to see her shift into the Green Lantern books. You know, with her connection and her relationship with Kyle, she could very easily shift into the Green Lantern books, kind of add a whole kind of twist to it. As a friend, former girlfriend, and a trusted hero.
Where would you put her, though? Green Lantern Corps as... Because she's not part of the Corps.
Well, she's not part of a Corps, but I think it would be kind of neat to see her in Green Lantern Corps as, she's not a Green Lantern, but she is. Kind of deal where it's she's
how is she?
Well, just with the Starheart,
but that's not connected really to the Corps per se.
No, but and as much as Green Lantern, Alan Scott isn't connected to the Corps, there is still a mutual kind of respect to him as Green Lantern.
Yeah, but we don't see him appearing in the Corps.
But I think there is. I think we could get Jade into it, basically through her connection with Kyle. And I think, part of it is getting her, she needs to leave Earth, and she wants to get off Earth, and she wants to do stuff outside of the universe. And instead of her just flying around aimlessly, she seeks out her friend. She
I
seeks
only
out
want to
this
see her.
connection.
I don't only want to see her there if she was a Green Lantern, which she's been before. She has had the ring before.
Okay, well, maybe give her the ring, but she's really using the Starheart power. You know?
Well, that doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's
It's
why
kind of
I
like.
think-
I guess the problem is with the scenario you're presenting. I'm having trouble seeing why she would be there, and why would Soranik be okay with that? And I guess
Well,
I don't
think
see
that
the
would be
reason.
there'd be a huge issue there where it's Jade really kind of, I don't want to say pushing herself on them, but Jade needing to leave Earth. Jade needs to, I need something new. I need something different. And what's Kyle going to say? Hey, I can't tell her no. This is a person who needs my help. And I can't, just turn my back on her.
Yeah, and see, I guess my attitude is, I guess this is coming back to the original point I was trying to make, and we might be in different places about this, and that's okay. I guess I see Jade's role being right where she is right now, which is why I wouldn't mind seeing a Green Lantern on this team, and I'm sure there's a storytelling reason why. I guess it's why I'm even leaning more towards it might be the Tangent Green Lantern, because she's different enough and quirky enough that it might work in a different way. I guess I don't see the need for a Green Lantern on this team, because we got Jade. Although it does lead me to wonder what is going to happen to Jade out of all this.
Yeah,
I don't know. So I'm hoping she sticks. I'm hoping she stays. I don't think that necessarily having a Green Lantern on the team means we need to lose Jade. I was just kind of curious as to your thoughts on there. Do you think it means we need to lose Jade, or could Jade stay with a Green Lantern?
I would say Jade could stay, but you think about just the whole dynamic of the team. Can you have two Green Lanterns on the team? And
Well, Jade
granted,
isn't
she's
really. Yeah.
She's not a Green Lantern, but it's that same power set. It's
Yeah.
that same type of power.
And is it necessary?
Is it necessary? Can you have two of them on there? That's why I do like your idea of the Tangent Green Lantern. I think because she's completely different than everybody else. So I think that would be kind of cool to have say, yeah, see, we got a Green Lantern. It's not who you think.
Yeah.
Kind of nice little, hey, surprise.
Because that's what they said is a Green... And I guess I didn't even... Until I was rereading this issue, I didn't even think... I was thinking our Green Lanterns. Does it have to be? Well, let me ask you that. Would you like the Tangent Green Lantern on the team?
Yes.
Okay.
You know what? To be honest with you, as soon as you said that, I was like, I'd like to see that. Just because, one, it's a different character. It's, she's an interesting character. She's kind of a little bit unique on the stories I've read about her. So I'm like, hey...
Well, let's take a look at our current
mix it
squad.
up.
Let's take a look at our current squad. We have Batman, Supergirl, Donna Troy, Jade, Jesse Quick, Congarilla, and Starman. Okay, so we've got, 7 characters on the team right now? Mm-hmm. This person would make, whoever this is, whether it's one of our Green Lanterns or not, would that make it 8, depending on the status of Jade? And to me, it seems like it's kind of silly. Why would we have had Jade on to begin with to only get rid of her in spring? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And it doesn't fit having a long-term plan for the team. Unless the plan was all along for something to happen to Jade. I guess I just don't see that happening. What have you thought of this arc as far as with Omega Man? Do you think that we've finally got our team together? Do you feel like they're the Justice League now, or do you think they're still growing into that role?
I think they're still growing into the role just because we're still in the middle of the adventure. For me, when I read this, I do see a Justice League. I do see a team of heroes. I like what I'm seeing here. I'm looking forward to that. You mentioned earlier at the beginning of the episode, you have a team in turmoil. You need to have them after that resolve, and then on together as a team. We haven't had that moment that this team has actually said, yes, see, we are the Justice League, hoorah, let's rock and roll. They've never had that moment. Now, as they're fighting...
Here, I'm seeing it. I guess that's what I'm... Okay.
I'm seeing them fight. I'm seeing them work as a team. I'm seeing team dynamics. So that's why I'm saying I see them as the Justice League, but I don't see that final moment. I do want that final moment that where they're recognizing, they're acknowledging it themselves, and that kind of I need that. I need one solid ending of a mission where they're like, yeah, high fives, it's Miller time kind of deal.
Do you think that's gonna see? My feeling is it's going to be the end of this mission.
I hope so. I hope at the end of this one we're all clean and clear.
Because I think this is. I think this. It's going to be very curious to see how this goes at the end of this mission. I'm with you that's been my hope for this series all along, and one of the reasons why I'm enjoying it is I feel it keeps moving in that direction, and that is something. Building this Justice League has to take a little bit of time when you're using characters like this. I love Dick Grayson as the set, stable leader. I love like seeing Jesse quicken him, where he's calling people into battle because he needs them for strategy scenarios. Like he'll call Jesse Quick over his way. Where's Donna Troy at? Where's Supergirl at? We need to pull these characters in together for this mission. Supergirl's internal dialogue throughout this issue I thought has been amazing because she feels very much like the same Supergirl that I've been reading with Gates and Eigel. And that's critical to me. If you're going to pull a character in that has a solo title, she needs to feel this way. Dick Grayson feels like the Dick Grayson in the Bat books right now. Critical to me. There's some things that I really need if you're going to have characters with solo titles in at this moment. Jessie Quick in these battle moments with Johnny Quick. Seeing her dad's face, the reaction she's having to that, and her going toe-to-toe with him and showing us why Liberty Bell / Jessie Quick belongs on this team and in these roles, and how she is a perfectly viable Flash for this team. I loved her over in JSA. So if you're going to make this move, you got to show me that this girl belongs here, because she belonged on the JSA, and I feel right now in this issue it's cemented for the fact for me that, wow, she really belongs here. I'm sold on the costume now, by the way. The Jessie Quick costume. The new version.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
Because I was a fan. Why I'm saying this, I was a fan of her as Liberty Bell.
Yeah. Well, I do like her as Liberty Bell, but I understand what she's doing, why she's doing it, the
honoring
whole,
dad.
Homage to the father and all that. And I got no issues with that, And to be honest, I do look at her sometimes and I do think, Liberty Bell, and when I'm, thinking about her and her interaction, I do sometimes catch myself saying Liberty Bell, but it's nothing against, using her as Jessie Quick here. And it's funny because when Jessie Quick first came around and the whole Johnny Quick thing, and before I really read enough stories about these characters, got to know them, I kind of thought, I don't know, it's not as cool as The Flash. That's not a cool name, or, even Impulse. I always loved the name Impulse just because that was just such a great, Kid Flash name kind of deal. And then when I hear Jessie Quick and Johnny Quick, I was like, I don't know. But now,
rich, long history,
now I have that history. Now I understand it. Now I'm okay with it. And actually, I kind of like the fact that she is giving the homage to the father.
I do too.
So it's it's funny how
I like the homage to Mom with Liberty Bell too.
Yeah. It's funny how a couple of years can change your reading and enjoyment of a comic. Because I guarantee you, if this issue had come out when we first started the show, I probably would have a lot different reading to it than what I do now. Because you think back to the reason I never read Legion of Superheroes, was there was one issue I read where I don't even remember what happened in it, but I remember putting it down thinking, oh, come on, this is just a cheap version of the Justice League. And I never touched it again. And it wasn't until we started doing the show that, I started reading Legion, and now, and then as time going on, I'm reading the past stuff, the present, and I really am now a Legion fan, and I now understand, what's going on and just the little nuances of it. And it took time for me to learn that. This team, I would have issues with, 5 years ago. Just because I don't know who these people are. I don't have this connection, and I've seen I've read some of the backstories with Donna Troy, and I've seen who she is. I've seen some really cool stuff with her. Dick Grayson as Batman, seeing him, grow into the role, and as we said with Jessie Quick, same kind of deal. So for me, as I say, I look at this and I think of this as a Justice League, and I do think these are level enough that they are. For me, this is worthy of the title Justice League. Right. I just want to see that moment where, they acknowledge it amongst themselves even, where they recognize that this is a team. They are a force. They are a force of good.
I actually agree with that. I 100% agree with that. My thing is, I've liked the gradual build to that point. I need to see that too, though. Like, I want to see... we talked about this a little bit on CGS, and I want to bring it back in here. Part of what I've wanted with this run is for them to gradually build to that point. And then we see, like, a nice stretch of them just being the Justice League.
Yeah.
Not saying that there aren't shakeups along the way or issues with characters. Even with what's going on with Jade right now, that's going to lead to some issues. What's going on with Supergirl in this issue is going to lead to some issues. It's okay to shake up some characters to build turmoil within the team, but you still need to feel like they're the team. And we're getting to that point, and I'm with you. At the end of this, I want to see that. I want to see when this bubble comes out and we see them with the other heroes' acknowledgement. These are the Justice League. And then we move on from that. They're now the Justice League, and then they have active roles in the DC Universe, and we see them have that that presence where these feel like the flagship team of the DC Universe. I felt it building to that, and it's that anticipation that has been exciting me about the book. And I felt this is the arc that was going to do that, so I want to see it at the end. We're actually totally in sync.
Yeah,
Everything you're saying in the comments is exactly what I'm looking for out of this team. But I think it's an interesting thing to discuss because of the fact that I think this book has a very mixed reaction from members of our audience, where some people are loving it, some people are hating it, some people are winding up in the middle. And I think it's why I want to talk about this book. I think it's a fun book.
Here's a panel that just that shows one of the reasons why I'm really digging this just as a book itself. Mm-hmm. It's in the middle of this big giant fight sequence going on. It's their vertical, the vertical panels, and in it you see Donna Troy and Superwoman fighting. And as they're crashing through, they're going from ceiling to floor, ceiling to floor, ceiling to floor, multiple levels. On the one scene, you got the dead bodies that Omega Man had fried before. They crash through the ceiling, then crash through that floor. When they're crashing through the floor, going into the next level, the dead bodies are following them. And, you look at just the lineup, they're going to hit, you can see they're hitting right next to the bodies. So, they, it's our creative team kind of deal. Make sure the bodies follow them through. Little stuff like that is what I really dig seeing in comics. Do they need to have that in there? If it hadn't been there, would I be saying, oh my God, they should have put that? No. But the fact that they did put it in there, just lets me know. And I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool. It's horrific and creepy, but it is cool.
I would love to isolate these comments, because if you take that conversation just out of the whole thing, it sounds like you're saying, this is exactly what I'd love to see more of in comics. Dead bodies falling through ceilings after heroes. It's something that our team really put it together. Floor after floor after floor, the dead bodies are following them. And this is something that I've wanted to see this in comics more.
Well, on Evil Tuesday, I do enjoy that.
It's not Evil Tuesday.
In my mind, it's always Evil Tuesday.
Oh, wow. All right. Moving right along.
Moving around to a less creepy moment.
Yeah. No, this book is filled actually with some interestingly creeping moments. I loved the steel from the other Earth on the floor, and Superwoman's picking up his leg and bashing Donna Troy with it. Just and a great fight, because Donna Troy has been, even more so than Dick Grayson, since this run kicked off, Donna Troy's been kind of my latch-on character because of her sense of being a part of the Justice League is cool. You know how we've seen Donna Troy, I think, for a few years now, in a very dark place. We saw her in the events of Blackest Night, put in a very dark place. This is a Donna Troy who we got to see come full circle. And, in Titans, J.T. Krull did that great issue with her, where we got to kind of see her transition to the point where we see her at now. She's excited to be a hero. She's excited to be a part of this team. This is a new lease on life for her. And I'm really liking her in the role that she's in. She feels like a Wonder Woman-style character, but yet she's the big sister in a role that it distinguishes her from Diana. And I've always liked the distinction between the two characters. Now, one of my key focuses of this one is Supergirl.
Yeah.
And just really her fight with Ultraman and the inner dialogue of saying, it's so great to be in this fight, and I almost feel guilty about it, where I can totally let loose with my powers. I know this guy can take it. And, it's just the freedom of being able to totally unleash and not think about all of, the grief over what happened in New Krypton and with her family and stuff. It's great to see her in this opportunity. But also this dialogue from the beginning that this was the day that she died. What does that mean? And seeing her in that role where she's coming when Dick Grayson calls her. And she's like, gosh, I love being a part of the Justice League. And she's having that moment. That to me is more, where are we showing that these guys are the Justice League? Those moments. Donna Troy has shown us it since very early in the run. Supergirl's shown us it now. This is something where we're seeing it more and more from members of the team. Dick Grayson's shown it in his leadership role. This team is coming together. This is what I've wanted to see. This run is critical. At a point I think is critical for this series. This needs to happen now. This is what we need to see from this team now. Jesse Quick coming in and, being able to be a part of what Dick Grayson's plan is. Jade stepping in and helping Jesse Quick out during the battles. The team, instead of thinking of themselves as individuals, thinking of the other members on the field, being aware of the fact that I might need to jump in for this team member. They can jump in for me. Starting to react like they've been together for a period of time. That's what we wanted to see more growth of in this series. These moments in this is what I was hoping for this arc, and I'm glad to finally see it. I don't know who Blue Jay is.
Yeah.
I don't know who Blue Jay is.
I remembered seeing Blue Jay on one of the...
Really?
I could have swore he's a character from that Lord Havoc and the Extremists. That alternate Earth. And I don't remember which number it is or any of that stuff. But I wanted to say I thought he was like the antithesis to Lord Havoc. So he was like either... that universe is kind of like a goofy universe where who's the villain, who's the heel, it's who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. You really couldn't see because of just the nature of that planet and just that society. But I thought he was like the opposite of Havoc.
I'm looking at Wikipedia, and there was actually a history in Justice League and Justice League Europe as well. But you're right, that series is exactly where you would have seen him.
Oh,
good
cool.
catch. Good
Woohoo!
catch. Yeah. So you're
Good
100%
job
correct.
for me. Well,
yeah, I totally forgot about him there. Not a character that I know, but I love Supergirl's reaction. I think is what worked for me here. I was connected with her. She's like, "I'm sorry, I've never heard of you."
Here's something interesting. The panel right before that one you just read, with the Tangent Universe Green Lantern, she's sitting there and she goes, "And so the end begins." When Supergirl, not only frees him, but when Jade's trying to contain Omega Man. So again, this character, she knows what's going to happen. She's, it's the whole future sight kind of deal. So it's more pointing towards her being around.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's... Well, at least she knows what's going on. This is real interesting to me. This bit with Omega Man, though, where she turns into Dark Supergirl.
Yeah.
I'm very curious on this and where it's going to go. Because you're right. They mentioned that she's going to stick around for some time. What does that mean for the Supergirl book? Does that mean we're going to get her there? Or is it we're going to see her with this in Justice League and then you see her gradually transition back? I've got to see what they do with her before I can say how I feel about it. Because actually, we just started talking about at the top of this episode how much we've enjoyed what Gates and Eigel have been doing with Supergirl. So I'm hoping... I can't imagine them keeping her and going that crazy with her where she's in the solo title. Do you see that happening with her?
I can see it happening, but in a way I don't want it to, because I've liked the character, the way who she is and where she's come, how far she's come along in just her... getting used to and getting comfortable. And we have this, Kara that we know and we understand. We have a Supergirl. She has her universe, everything. I don't want to see another big shakeup of her universe. It just finally really kind of got settled in and things were quote-unquote normal for her. So while the character, it's kind of cool and interesting and I want to see where this goes, part of me doesn't want to see it bleed through over.
Well,
I want to keep it contained in JLA.
Is this going back to what happened with her in her own book, where we got to see some of this happen? I don't know.
I think this is something completely different.
Really?
Because
the costume's the same. That's what's throwing me off.
Well, I just think because of the triggering behind this, and it's not the kryptonite poisoning or any of those funky stuff like that. This is all from that whole Omega Man, where he's like, I see the darkness and the evil kind of in you, and basically pulls it out of her. So I don't know if it's a corruption of Omega Man has actually put his energy into her, and this is like his possession of her, or if it's something completely different, because it does end with her sitting there speaking Kryptonian. So this is definitely a full-on Kryptonian with the knowledge and experience that Kara has. It's just maybe a little shifted, or maybe it's just really, it's still Kara in there, but she has this outward appearance where she looks different. I don't know.
Now we're getting a one-shot with Starman and Congarilla, which is
Yeah.
going to explain where they're at right now and what's going on there. I'm kind of glad they're doing that in a one-shot, because I want to see this team after this have an opportunity to just continue on being this team. So I don't think I'm ready to have the rest of the team taken out of the book. I'd like to see Starman and Congarilla back with them after this. And I want an explanation, though, so I want to see that.
Here's something I just thought of, because we talked earlier about Jade.
Yeah.
Now with the ending of this issue, it's Jade who makes the big energy bubble, and they showed a couple panels with her just focusing and all the concentration. What if she burns herself out? What if by doing that she's she doesn't have any juice? She doesn't have any the power left in her, or the Star Heart's like just exhausted from her.
Wouldn't that mean, though, that she could be with Obsidian then? To me, that seems like
Yeah.
dropping that storyline.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I think what's going on with her with the darkness that she's going through is a sign that we haven't resolved yet what's going on with her in Obsidian. Which I'm glad, because otherwise that would seem like too quick of an ending to what happened. Because like it was like, bam, her little thing to come back to life through Brightest Day happened. There has to be more to it than that, to me. So I think her darkness and what we're seeing with her is directly due to what's still going on. That hasn't been resolved yet. So I want to see a resolution. Now, okay, arguing what you're saying, could she be burnt out temporarily? Yeah. Maybe. And then we come back to that storyline. Maybe. I don't know.
Or she gets burnt out and she's like, hey, I can now hang out with Obsidian. They're like, hold on. We don't know for certain. We can't take the risk of, let's experiment and see if you two are together if you destroy the universe.
Right.
It's so that could even add to the whole story, because she's like, I don't have the power anymore. I don't have the star heart in me. Like, well, we got to be sure. We can't be sure, if you two are in the same room together, kind of deal.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, though, why would they set up all this thing with the darkness inside of her, and then that's how they end it?
Yeah.
There seems to be more of a story there to that.
Definitely, yeah.
There's just a lot of foreshadowing with what's been going on, and you've got to almost see a resolution to it. I want to see that story. I guess what I'm saying is I want to see that story, and I think that's the point of what they've been doing, is to build a story where we want to see it. So I want to see how that resolves.
Well, this again is another proof why Jim's not a writer, because I just killed the story.
No. I mean,
no, I know.
I'm not arguing. I guess is there a possibility that could happen? Yes. That's half the fun of speculating, is checking to see. Because I don't know, dude. I mean, let's be honest. I don't know where it's going to go either.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're throwing out ideas, and who's to say what idea is more valid? I don't know. I'm just throwing out my own opinion. Wait, how many times on this show have I thrown out an opinion where my idea sounds super logical to me, and your idea sounds illogical, and you were spot on? Yeah. So who really was the more logical? You. So so let's see. I don't know. I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Okay, I need to isolate that comment you just made, where you said that I was.
That's the beauty of this, though. You don't know how to.
Like, dang it.
I like doing the technical end of the show. But that's Justice League, so.
Hey guys, this is Bobby C., also known as Starwolf Oakley as the forums. I just thought I'd call you up about Smallville, Superboy, and Huntress and Batman. First, on Smallville, regarding the episode Luthor, the one thing that I was wondering about the Earth 2 Lex Luthor was whether or not he had a full head of red hair. Because, if Lionel and Lex were in the field where Clark's ship landed, maybe Lex never got hit by a kryptonite meteor rock, and thus, never went bald like he did in the pilot episode. And a more general thing is, the question is, has Smallville done all it can do, or all it could do, now that it's wrapping up? I mean, Smallville has done a lot, but the one thing that surprises me is that they never did the Ultra-Humanite in any way, considering he was like the first supervillain Superman ever fought way back in Action Comics 13, I believe. And they basically got rid of him after an artist drew Luthor to look like him and thought, okay, we'll just make Luthor bald and forget about that. And how could they have put the Ultra-Humanite into the Smallville universe? Well, my idea was that soap opera star Dolores Winters opens a theater and acting school in Smallville. And we all know, before the Ultra-Humanite got his brain transferred into a giant albino gorilla, he got his brain transferred into the body of soap opera star Dolores Winters. And maybe they could have put an albino gorilla in there some way. I don't know. They never put Beppo the super monkey or Titano in there, so maybe gorillas in Smallville don't work very well. And the Ultra-Humanite's real name was recently revealed as Gerard Shugel, which makes sense in a way, considering he was from the original Action Comics. It just seems weird, if they're going to put Vandal Savage, because it seems pretty obvious that Dean Cain's character was supposed to be Vandal Savage in everything but name, and they're supposedly going to put in Blue Beetle and Booster Gold and the Legion and the Justice Society and all that stuff. It seems funny that they couldn't put in the Ultra-Humanite in some way. And, just Dolores Winters opening an acting school in Smallville was just the only thing I could think of. Now, moving over to Superboy, and Actually, you were mentioning Superboy and Poison Ivy, and they actually met in the world's finest 3 miniseries that was very good, and I believe was written by Chuck Dixon with Carl Kessel, and the art was by Tom Grummett. And it is the first time Superboy Con-El meets Tim Drake Robin, and what Superboy says when they first meet is, okay, even with the costume, something tells me this isn't one of the legendary Flying Graysons, which is pretty clever. It does go to show that Superboy does have a lot of facts in his head, programmed in him by Cadmus, but the fact that he recognizes Robin's outfit as similar to a Flying Grayson outfit is pretty funny in its own way. And that was the first time he fought Poison Ivy, although he didn't fully understand the whole time that Poison Ivy was a bad guy. But in terms of what you want to talk about for Superboy, I mean, like, an important issue, I think, was Superboy 59, which was when Superboy got a virtual reality look at Krypton at the Fortress of Solitude, and Superman officially gave him the name Con-El. And Superboy was so happy about that he had a real name that he actually cried. And the next storyline in that was Superboy 60-64 called Hypertension, which is actually a pretty expensive series to find in singles, and I don't think they ever paperbacked it, which has Superboy traveling through alternate universes and through what they called hypertime, which is something they tried after 0 Hour to bring back alternate universes, sort of, but never really caught on for whatever reason. And it was through those travels, that he found out Clark Kent was Superman. And the thing that kind of hit him about that was he was hurt that Superman wouldn't tell him this, that, he had a pretty deep bond with Superman that he gradually formed, but the fact that Superman never told him, oh, by the way, I'm Clark Kent, was like really hurt him. But he did eventually find it out through, of all things, World Without Grown-Ups, or something like that, something similar, where basically the Young Justice become adults and the Justice League become kids, and that's when Clark Kent, as a kid, told him, oh, by the way, I'm Clark Kent, and that's how they found out. I don't even know if that's quote-unquote in continuity anymore, that Superboy traveled through parallel universes and found out Clark Kent's Superman. But one other thing about how important Superman is to Superboy, I mean, it's also through him that he got the name Connor Kent. I mean, if you ever read Superboy 100, which was the last episode of the series, at the very end of the issue, Superman sort of realizes that what Superboy was looking for was a normal life, or basically a secret identity, even though for pretty much his whole series, Superboy didn't really think he needed that. When it turned out he did need that as sort of a way to get away from it all. And that's how he wound up staying with the Kents, with Jonathan and Martha, and taking the name Connor Kent. And even though he didn't find Smallville quite as interesting as everything he'd seen, he obviously cared for the Kents dearly. And finally, speaking of secret identities, regards the Huntress and Batman. Now, basically, the Huntress did not know Batman was Bruce Wayne for a long time, until after Final Crisis, when everyone thought Bruce Wayne was dead. And I think she only found out so she would keep an eye on Tommy Elliott, who now looked like Bruce Wayne. Now, basically, Huntress was the only one in the Bat family who didn't know Batman was Bruce Wayne, and despite her ties to Oracle never told her, presumably because that's what Batman wanted. So it seems funny that in regard to all this return of Bruce Wayne stuff, there's never been a scene between Batman and Huntress to go, oh, now I know you're Bruce Wayne, and why, out of everybody, do you not want me to know that? I mean, there's a interesting relationship between the two of them, and I don't know how different it is now that Bruce knows from Infinite Crisis that, oh, in an alternate universe, the Huntress was his daughter with Catwoman. Not that that's the same thing as this universe, because she was originally going to be in Universe 8. If you read Infinite Crisis, you'll know that. But I think DC should get on the ball about putting a scene between Bruce Wayne and Huntress, just to see how things are different now that she knows about that Bruce Wayne is Batman now, and she was the last one to know, and she wouldn't know unless everyone thought Bruce was dead, that out of everybody in the Bat family, she was apparently the one Bruce trusted the least with his secret identity. I'm just wondering what you think about that, where DC will go with that and everything else. Okay, thanks for putting up with the long call. Bye.
Hey, Bobby, as always, thanks for the call. And yeah, don't worry about the long call. It was a great call. I want to start a little bit backwards on this one. I want to talk first about Bruce Wayne and whether or not Huntress knows. I guess I don't remember her being told that Bruce Wayne is Batman. My impression was with Tommy Elliott that they all knew that he was a Bruce Wayne doppelganger, but that didn't necessarily translate into them knowing he was Batman. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. I'd have to go back and double check on the issues, but I never remembered it being revealed to all of the players who were watching Tommy Elliott that he was in fact Bruce Wayne. I mean, that he was in fact taking over for Batman. He was taking over for Bruce Wayne. So I guess my impression is that Huntress knows Tommy Elliott had taken on the face of Bruce Wayne, and all of the Bat family, because they were so rooted in Gotham, were guarding this. So I don't know. I actually, now that you say that, I would love to know some clarification as far as who knows what. I would say this, that with Bruce's return and the reveal of Batman Inc. and that he's been running Batman, this would actually protect his secret even more, in that now this explains, well, why did the whole Bat family guard him? Well, he's been running the Bat family all along. So if anything, I think just the opposite has happened here. I think this would convince Huntress and other people that Bruce Wayne is not Batman, that he's just been funding it. And so I don't know. I guess I'm not necessarily under the impression that she knows. Now, touching on what you said, if it is in fact that she does know, I'd love to see that as well, because I'm a big fan of those scenes. You were referring, I had the whole Superboy run. I had to sell it off for financial reasons, and I'm actually really regretting that, because it was one of those runs where there was a time where I had to take full runs and I put them on eBay just because I needed money at the time. So, I took a lot of my better runs and threw them up there, and hopefully other readers got some enjoyment out of them. But taking that out of the equation, I am a big fan of these sequences where, they take characters, and not even just with identity reveals, when there's emotional moments, the return of a character, something like that, where you have those one-on-one spotlights with characters who are important to them. Bruce Wayne and Jim Gordon have had tons of them over the years through the various heavy events that have happened. Bruce's various replacements, returning to Gotham, and Gordon having to deal with, are you the same guy that I've known all along, or have there been a ton of you and I really don't know you at all? I love those moments. So you're right, those emotional moments between two characters when there's reveals, whatever they are really, really great. I guess I've not been under the impression that the Huntress knows. So, and maybe I'm wrong there. I could be very wrong there. And if I am, then I'm 100% with you. But I guess I'm under the impression that those people were guarding Tommy Elliott to keep him from wreaking havoc in Gotham with Bruce Wayne's money. Nothing to do with Batman. So that's my take on it. I might be wrong. Going back a little bit further, Hypertime. I'm glad you brought up Hypertime, because it was one of many concepts, you're right, to try and bring back the idea of the multiverse and time. I was a big fan of Hypertime. Mark Waid, I believe, was the one that created that. I was a big Flash fan at the time that all of that was going down, and I liked that concept. It was a cool way. I guess I liked it so much because post-Zero Hour, I felt the multiverse being gone. Not even just post-Zero Hour, post-Crisis. The idea of the multiverse being gone, I think it took something away from DC. I always liked that concept. I wasn't against it because I liked the era post-Crisis where, they did all these cool things with the DC Universe. I loved Legends and, kind of the whole revamp and reboot to kind of modernize it and hopefully try to make it simplified. But to me, I think readers are smart enough. And actually, I think sometimes readers like that distinction because it separates the DC Universe from the Marvel Universe. It's something that gives it its own flavor. I think your Marvel readers who jump into DC books enjoy that there's just a little bit of a different flavor there, and vice versa. As a longtime DC fan, I love reading Marvel books because Marvel has their own unique flavor, and that's something that. So when Hypertime came back, I'm like, oh yeah, we're experimenting with this again, and it was kind of cool. In a different way. Superboy, you were right. I don't think all of it's been traded. And I know Young Justice is something they're looking at trading more, especially now with the cartoon series. I'm wondering if the new Superboy series is successful, if we might see more Superboy trades and see more of that series collected. There's a lot of books that, I would love to see collected again. And if they're not going to collect them in trade, maybe in digital versions, where you have a chance to get these books digitally. I'm a big fan of the idea of collecting digital trades where you get a cheaper rate digitally on some books that maybe they'll never publish in print. I don't want to see dollars ever taken away from comic shops. I don't want to see dollars taken away from bookstores because I'm a fan of comics being in bookstores as well. But if they're not going to collect these things, if they aren't going to provide that opportunity, then put them out legally digitally. So that way people can get them and at a price point where people, can afford them because, I think that's a great way for them to bring in revenue on product that they haven't released, that there's those of us out there, like you and me, who I'd love to have that run again. I'd love to have that run again legally, and I think there's a key with that. Digitally right now, I'd like to see more released legally where there's big runs of older material. I don't think that's going to take anything away from the back issue market because, to me, why do we seek out back issues? We're collectors. I don't think that's going to kill that for comic shops. I think it's going to be just the opposite. I think digital is going to offer an opportunity for people to get interested in something where they're like, "Ooh, I'd love to collect it. I'd love to actually have the physical product of this because I thought it was so cool." The more you like something, the more you want pieces of it that nobody else can get, or very few people can get. And you're talking about a series. You're right. Some of it's hard to find. So that's kind of a cool thing. And it's a series I do recommend for people to seek out. I liked Superboy's series a great deal. It's a lot of fun. He's a very cool character. And it's one of the reasons why I find him very endearing today when we see him back in his own series, because he's evolved. He's grown. Like you said, his relationship with the Kent farm now, it's funny. Back in the day, I felt like he was coming into the Kent farm as kind of an adopted son. Now he's been there so long that I think he's part of the family, and I firmly feel that way. And that's one of the great things about longevity and continuity and where it's, there's been years in time for this character. It's great to see him like in an issue of Supergirl quite recently, the last issue that we talked about on this episode. You saw Connor there, and it was just a cameo appearance because he was supposed to be there. He's in Smallville. That's where his series is taking place. And I love little tidbits like that. We saw Clark there. We saw the whole family gathered around the table. And to me, that stuff is just totally awesome. Showing that there are relationships between these characters. Connor and Kara, technically cousins, but because of the way Connor was, I guess grown, for lack of a better term, technically can be argued that they're not. So I don't know. There's a lot to talk about with Superboy and Connor, and I'm glad you brought this up because it's just a very, very cool series. And he does have a rich. I don't have a lot of the things you were just giving information, and I don't really have a lot of comments other than thank you for calling in with that because a lot of that just jarred my memory on some things that I haven't remembered in years because it was back when that series was being published. So thanks for giving us that trip down memory lane there. Is Smallville, have they done all they could do? See, to me, I'm not a fan of, in TV shows like that, just shoving characters in for no purpose. As far as would I love to see story arcs with characters like the Ultra Humanite and all that? Sure. So I'm with you on that end, but to me, I would love to see the show continue and there'd be reasons to bring in those characters, not just to try and shove them into this season for the sake of getting them in. There's always things they could do. I mean, we could go through a list of, forgetting villains for a second, what about all the heroes that we would have loved to have seen Clark encounter? And just in all honesty, the truth of the matter is, yeah, it would have been cool to have them in for a quick cameo, but what do they do to further this current Smallville storyline? Not much. To me, it's much more important to bring back the characters that have a relationship with Clark, because they mean more because the relationship's been there. I would love to have seen relationships developed with certain heroic characters to talk about things that, what's the dream? Bruce Wayne and Diana. Those are the characters that I would love to have seen in there. And there's reasons why they didn't go that route. And I understand that. Bruce Wayne, obviously, because of the films. I'm not as sure why with Diana. I wonder if it's because there was a potential for a Wonder Woman movie, and now with a Wonder Woman TV series, those are characters that are kind of have been off the shelf. I would have loved to have seen those characters, though, have more of a relationship in Smallville. And, I mean, those are dreams of things, could it have done, did it do everything it could do? Well, no, but It sure did a lot. I mean, let's talk about the reality of it. They accomplished a lot. I think this season especially they did. And I think just to shove things in for the sake of getting them in, cramming them in the last season, I think that would be to the detriment of the last season. I think we've got more in store for us than we've seen yet. So, I mean, I think we're going to be getting a lot of satisfying things like you're mentioning. But, yeah, I mean, Ultra Humanite, looking at his original history, I think there's a lot of characters like the Ultra Humanite that could have been brought in. And that's not a detriment on Smallville. I think there comes a point where you got to say, what's the point in bringing in this character, and can we do something else? So I don't know. I'm very torn on that, obviously, from you can hear from this. But a very interesting phone call and conversation. Actually, I would love to hear that from listeners. What characters would you have liked to have seen in Smallville that weren't there? I think Bruce and Diane are obvious ones, but what about more obscure characters? Ultra Humanite certainly fits that category, but does have a strong, rich relationship with Superman. So I get it. I get what you're saying there, Bobby. What about other listeners? Is there anybody else, either on the forums, posted on our website in the comments section underneath this, on Facebook, wherever? What characters would you like to have seen in Smallville that weren't there? And why? Why do you think that they would have worked for the series? I think that's interesting. Bobby posted an interesting question there. Anyway, as always, Bobby, thanks for the phone call. And remember, our show voicemail line, I know I'm going to say this at the end of the show, but it's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype, and we love having your comments a part of our show.
You look good. Been working out? You could probably use a little sun. Then again, who am I to talk?
So, Jim, anyway, this week I got into the DC Universe online beta test for the game on the PlayStation 3. It's a very cool week for me because I got a chance to really download this thing and play. I've been super excited to actually see, because last time I really played the game was at the New York Comic Con, what was that, like 2.5 years ago now?
Yeah.
And I liked it then. I thought the game engine, played real well. It was fun. But I didn't have a chance to really get into the meat and potatoes of the game. So I went into the game. And there, at the time when I went in, there were two servers going. There was P versus E, which I think is players versus environment, or I'm guessing, I don't know. And then there's player versus player, which is that's P versus P, which that's kind of universal. Everybody knows that. I don't know why I don't know what P versus E is. I've done so many MMOs.
I'm like,
you think I know? That tends to be the one, which is funny because that tends to be the one I choose more often. I've never been much of a player versus player gamer, but I kind of want to jump over to that player versus player server. I think that's where I'm going to create my villain. So anyway, the first server, I'm a bat junkie. So my first, I created that Shadow Wing character that I like. But somebody had already picked Shadow Wing, so I had to use Shadow from Green Arrow. I had to use Shadow, Shadoe, and Wing in order to get at least that name in there for now. But I created like a Nightwing-style character and got to go run through. You get to choose a mentor according to your power set. And with each power set, there's like gadgets, there's ice, there's fire, there's natural magic, there's all different kinds of power sets you can choose from, which is pretty standard in the superhero MMO games that have been out so far. I really like, though, that when you choose your mentor, it helps decide your location where you start off at. So far, the only two locations that I've started off in are Gotham and Metropolis. I don't know if there's a third starting location, but you can choose either any of the three members of the Trinity. So in the first server I chose, I made Shadow Wing, and I start off in Gotham City with Batman as my mentor. They created, that night, I don't know if they were working on that server or whatever. After I played it for a few hours, that server went down, and then when I tried to get back in, there was a huge wait to get in, so I'm assuming they were waiting on that. Not more than 10 minutes later, there was a third server up. So I created another character on that, Hawkman style. I created Drnorge, and he's on the third server. For the power set, I did fire, but then each character also has a weapon. So my Shadow Wing character has like a staff, like Tim Drake carries around. Cool. And then my Hawkman-style character went with the axe, the one-handed wielding axe. What's cool about this game is after you get into the game and you start doing missions and you start grabbing loot along the way. You create your custom costume when you start off, but as you grab loot, you can then equip the loot. So if you grab like a one-handed weapon or another weapon along the way, you can equip that and it will change, obviously, to that weapon.
Oh, cool. Which
adds additional abilities. Or, additional offense or additional defense. As you gain experience, as usual, you got travel powers right away. So you choose if you want to be an acrobat, if you want to be a speedster, if you want to fly. And so far, my first guy is an acrobat. And
now, acrobat, do you swing? Do you jump? How do you
jump onto buildings? You climb.
Oh, okay.
You do flips. You tend to be a little faster than a normal person. It's more of like a hopping run as you're going along. It's kind of like a combination of like what you would expect Batman to do, scaling the wall with tools and gadgets and stuff like that.
I wonder if they're going to have grappling hooks eventually or something like that.
I'd love to see that. But this works really well. The acrobatics. It's like fun. I mean, which is the real key so far is everything I've done in the game has been fun. It's very action-oriented. It's a lot different than... it's closer to Champions Online than City of Heroes in its gameplay system. But even then, it's like kind of a marriage of the two and yet its own thing. I've heard comparisons, and the tagline for it is it's kind of like got comparisons to God of War. It is more of an action game in how it plays, and I really like that distinction because I feel like a superhero. There's no waiting to do moves. There's no getting tired. I'm like the Hawkman character, I'm swinging my axe left and right, and it's not stopping. And you actually need to because it's very easy to get overwhelmed. The cool part is you can like literally on the outdoor missions that you have to do, there are other heroes there fighting. So you don't necessarily be on a team with them, but you can also help them. Like if they get knocked down and are ready to like respawning, where there's that countdown where they respawn, you can actually walk up and revive them.
Oh, cool.
Don't have to be on your team or anything. You're not teamed up. I've done that twice now for people that just happen to see them there. The times I've gotten killed, there seems to be nobody around.
Well, that's the way it works.
I'm not going to take that personally, though. The missions that I've gone on so far have involved going after Felix Faust in the Metropolis missions, where Wonder Woman was my mentor. I figured with a Hawkman-style character, Superman didn't seem quite right. Wonder Woman with the Amazon training and all that seems definitely to be the case. So I love her as a mentor. We're going through this Felix Faust mission, and I'm helping Zatanna, who is trying to stop him along the way. And what he's doing is magically he's turning people into these soulless creatures, and you can, in certain parts of the mission, you can actually restore them to human form.
Cool.
And it's a lot of what you'd expect in your typical MMO, where it's you're fighting these characters in the streets and you're gaining experience along the way. You have to beat a certain number of them, close a certain number of these portal things, take down certain magical devices in order to continue on in the mission. But the story continues to progress then. And when you're doing these things, Oracle will pop up and will direct you to the next mission. And then after she does that, Wonder Woman will pop up and give you a little bit of data, some advice for the mission, things like that, which is really great. It's kind of cool. It makes you feel like you're part of the actual, like you're like a rookie in the DC universe. And the premise behind the game, actually, I should probably talk about that first. Did you see the original video? Did I ever show that to you?
No, I don't think I've seen it.
Lex Luthor, it's in the future, it takes off. Lex Luthor and the villains have banded together like a Legion of Doom style thing, and their goal is to kill the heroes and finally win. He's made this alliance with Brainiac, and it's an evil alliance between the two. Though it's a dark future, very Kingdom Come-ish, but it's not Kingdom Come. The fight that you see in the beginning in this huge, really lengthy cutscene is Batman, Hal Jordan, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and Superman's like out by the sun. They're fighting, though, these villains, and the villains are killing the heroes. You see this bit where it's Black Adam against Hal. Hal looks like he's ready to get the one-up on Black Adam. Black Adam takes him out, does the Shazam, and pulls down and kills Hal. So you're left there seeing like a cracked ring in the dust. And you see the Flash get taken down. You see Batman, he's about ready to be killed by Deathstroke.
Yeah.
And the Joker's like, nobody kills the Bat but me. And shoots this rocket at him, which I'm assuming kills off Batman. Wonder Woman is killed by Luthor as a ploy to bring Superman running.
Yeah.
In the end, Luthor kills Superman using a kryptonite staff.
Dang.
So we see like all of the heroes killed. Here's the big problem. Because Luthor killed the heroes, this gives Brainiac a free opportunity to come in and take over the Earth. You see an invasion come in of Brainiac's crew. So this Dark Luthor has realized the error of his ways. Oh my gosh, I've done all this and I doomed the Earth. Comes back to present day and says, you need to stop this from happening. You need to stop Brainiac from doing this. This is your future. It's my present. You have to take care of this now. This is the premise then for recruiting more heroes. We've got to stop Brainiac. So along the way, while you're doing these missions, there are little Brainiac missions that you'll get along the way where you have to stop Brainiac's
development,
putting himself in place to be in a position to. And when you start off with your hero, you do this opening mission where you are escaping from Brainiac's ship.
Cool.
Yeah, so and then Superman helps you at the end. You have to take down these things that are blocking any of the Justice League from coming in, and once you take them down, Superman shows up and helps you in a fight. And it's cool because while you're fighting, you actually see Superman fighting the foe with you.
Nice.
So it's really cool. You get this sense of, wow, I'm in a comic book, I'm fighting with Superman. But back to the Zatanna mission anyway. So we're fighting Felix Faust. You eventually get to this point where Zatanna's been captured by Faust's minions. And they've got, I don't know what you call these orbs that are holding her in check. She can't use her powers. It's like a prison.
Yeah.
A magical, mystical prison. So you've got to actually break into this place, free Zatanna, and then protect her while she uses her magic to figure out where Faust has gone. So, the minions are coming in, you're fighting them off so Zatanna can do her thing. She locates them, and what's great about this is each of these story arcs are done in stages where, you do these outdoor missions first, then you do an indoor mission, and so you can log off, do these, you can spend like a half an hour, 15, 20 minutes, whatever you need to do, make some progress in the game. Or you can spend hours playing and do a whole story arc, which I've done. But I've done both elements of it where I've done them in little chunks, and I really like that flexibility of, hey, I can play this game, run around for a little bit, do some small missions, and feel like I'm making progress with my character. It's fun picking up loot because you can pick up new chest pieces, you can pick up new armor pieces. The cool part, though, is if you like your original look, or some hybrid of them, you have the ability within your menu system to go back to that appearance without losing the positive effects of the items you picked up.
Oh, okay.
Like my Shadow Wing character, I don't want him to have a cape, but I picked up the cape, and having the cape gives me, extra defense, extra health, things like that. So I'm like, well, I want the cape in my inventory, but I can turn it off visibly, so you don't see it. I like that flexibility of, you can go back to your original outfit, or some of the pieces I picked up are better than my choices that I had originally when I was creating the character, so I keep some of the pieces, because they actually made my character look better than I originally designed him anyway.
Cool.
So I like that kind of turn off to turn on, whatever you want to, and you can change that, once those pieces are equipped, they're in your inventory for changes. And you actually can then pick up pieces along the way, too, that they don't give you any positive effects, but they give you appearance. You can change your appearance with them. So I helped Zatanna with this mission. We went up against Felix Faust. I got to tell you, this is where the game really kicks off. There's this slow build of the outdoor missions. In most of the missions that I've done so far, whether I was in Gotham or Metropolis, are very similar in style. You're beating up some thugs. You have a couple little extra things that you have to do along the way. That's not a criticism. That's, it's pretty standard. Then you lead to an indoor mission that's a little bit bigger, a little bit meatier. Along the way, you keep doing these missions, and then finally, when you get to go up against the supervillain, that's where the meat and potatoes of the game really comes into play. And it's a nice build to that. Thugs to, getting together with these heroes. Felix Faust, when you go up against him, you're fighting in the Mannheim Chinese Theater. And,
cool.
I'm assuming Bruno Mannheim, and everything is themed to what you would expect in the DC universe, which is great.
Now, that's in Gotham?
This is in Metropolis. So this is my Hawkman style character that's in Metropolis with Wonder Woman leading me. So we're fighting, and Zatanna and I are fighting Felix Faust, and he keeps using his minions as they're coming in. They keep putting these magical orbs up that Faust is absorbing to make himself heal and become more powerful. So you have to be... Now, while you're trying to take Faust down, you also have to take down his minions, otherwise they're going to heal him. Then he'll turn around at certain points after you get him hurt, and he'll absorb energy from these two, stone mystical artifacts or something. He'll become super huge and all-powerful, and you need to run from him during those times. There is no fighting him. It's a matter of, I've got to survive.
It's a feat, don't fail me now.
So you're in this huge theater, with an upper deck and a lower deck, so you can fly around, jump into, in between rows. You just stay away from the guy. And then he'll weaken. That power will start to wear off, and you've got to attack him again. The cool part is when you eventually beat him, and it was pretty difficult. I really enjoyed the challenge of it, because I felt like Zatanna and I were duking it out with this guy, and it was a real big supervillain battle. So it was very rewarding at the end when you were done after fighting him. You get this cutscene. You actually have to cuff him at the end, capture him at the end. And this cutscene that you get from him is all done in comic art. So it's, it's clear the Wildstorm team or, whatever team is whatever artists were involved in that craft of this thing. It looks beautiful. It showed that Faust's quest was for the power over life. A lot of what we saw from him in 52 is what is pulled from for this. You see this whole Shazam family, Billy, Mary, and the whole crew, and Black Adam are involved in this cutscene. So it very much gives you this sense of reward and this feeling that you're part of the DC Universe. When you're done, you get a headline that goes into your menu where you can actually pull up and see the missions that you've beaten, villains you've beaten, which is cool. Then you go afterwards, and Zatanna, you go back to the police headquarters, and Zatanna rewards you with an item that you can have, and it thanks you for being a part of the mission, and Wonder Woman's patting you on the back. So it's this real sense afterwards. I'm like, wow, the Justice League heroes think I am cool. I mean, I'm like, this is awesome. And I love that. That's what I want from the game,
They're just
right?
being nice.
They are. They don't think I'm cool. No, it's true. And I have no illusions about that, and I thank you for bursting my bubble.
Hey, no problem.
But
That's
I went
what
over,
friends are for.
Yeah, and you're always here to kick me when I'm down. But back over at Gotham with my Gotham character. Batman, and he's got a different tone about him, what you'd expect from Batman. You're going through this mission in Gotham City, and Gotham City's amazing. You know, the free clinic's there for Leslie Tompkins, and you have to do missions there. Harvey Bullock's there, Gordon's there, Robin's there, you know, all the players you'd expect. Dick Grayson is still Nightwing.
Yeah,
Robin is Tim Drake. This takes place before what's currently going on. I'm assuming as the game evolves over time.
Yeah, they got to change it around, and maybe later on they'll...
but it really feels like this game is, I don't want to say Elseworlds. You can tell it takes place in a period of time that's not quite present day yet. Mm-hmm. Which I have no issue with. It's fun. You're still running around with Dick Grayson and Tim Drake and all that other stuff. So I'm running this mission with the Scarecrow. And like I said, it's similar to what was going on in Metropolis as far as where you're fighting thugs on the street. But here's the big difference. The situation on the street in Gotham with the Scarecrow is fear gas is being released into the streets of Gotham. It's affecting you as well as the villains. Because you'll see hallucinations and you'll start attacking them. And it turns out some of them are, after you start to realize what the hallucinations are, they turn out to be thugs of the Scarecrows. But sometimes they turn out to be these hazmat suit wearing workers who are trying to shut things down. So you have to stop yourself partway through. Ooh. And they tell you, the gas is affecting you. You know, stop. It's great moments. You'll partway through start helping characters like Harvey Bullock with a certain mission that they have going. And a lot of times they're trying to get fans going on the street to disperse the air.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to get the gas canisters contained, nullified, so that way the gas will, disappear. So it's fun on the outside trying to shut down what the Scarecrow's doing. While you're doing this, you're collecting clues and information with Batman and Oracle. So you're trying to figure out where the Scarecrow is and put an end to this for good. So you do this stuff, and then this eventually leads you to the underground sewers, a fight with the Scarecrow where you're trying to save Batwoman, who has been captured by him.
Cool.
And when you show up there to fight the Scarecrow finally, you fight the Scarecrow, and he sends different waves of phobias at you. Using his gas, he's trying to make you experience different things to make you go nuts. So that way he can finally just take you down and defeat you. So there's these bits where you're fighting this giant Scarecrow, and he brings Killer Crocs at you. He sends these terror bats at you. He'll send the Bat family at you to give you this fear of your allies turning against you. So you're fighting the birds of prey, I'm talking about, where you've got Black Canary, Huntress, you're fighting.
Now, is that completely illusions, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and they look like they're just like freaky, twisted versions of themselves, not your...
So can you just avoid them and not fight them?
No, you have to fight them, because they're coming at you, they're trying to get you. So if you don't fight them, they're taking you down.
Okay.
All of the illusions that you're fighting can hurt you.
Okay,
so,
that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
So you've got to take them down, which they could be. I'm looking at they could be thugs of the Scarecrow that you're actually taking down, just given different appearances, like what you're seeing out on the street with hallucinations. So I take it that you're fighting something physical, because we do see his thugs later during the mission. Like after he runs out of the gas, it's you fighting the Scarecrow's thugs and the Scarecrow to try to arrest him finally. There's really cool bits in the game, and there's bits where he's fighting you with weather. Like fear of thunder and lightning.
Oh, okay.
So you'll have thunder and lightning coming down on you. I don't know how it's what you'd expect from the Scarecrow. It's a huge mission.
Any bridges?
Huh?
Any bridges?
Yeah, there's this one bit where you're on a giant bridge, fear of bridges. And no, I actually didn't experience that, but you might. Cool, at the end, you and Batwoman finally capture him. And then you go to this huge Scarecrow cutscene that takes place in Arkham, where it's him saying, they think they've got me. but they don't realize, and it goes through that whole bit. Very cool, very creepy. And then you see on the different doors, the Joker, Cobblepot, all the different characters that you expect in Arkham. But you see his fear of the Bat family standing over him. And very cool. It looks very Jim Lee-ish in the art. It might be Jim Lee's art, I'm assuming. Very cool, again, cutscene in this whole thing. This leads me to my next mission where I'm going against Bane, who is now jacked up again on...
That's not good.
Venom. So the game so far feels very much like I'm playing within the DC universe. I love it. And there's always, like any of these games, and it's true of any MMO, there's always room for more variety, but this has all of the elements I like. And most importantly, very fun to play. So I'm very satisfied that, I've made no purchase so far. I'm playing this for free. But I'm very satisfied that I'm going to be able to really delve into this world. It's a beta. So there's a lot of stuff that they haven't introduced us to yet, I'm sure, that we're going to either be introduced to in the beta or in the actual release when it's out there. I've encountered very few bugs. I've encountered some along the way, which you'd expect in a beta. This is not a finished game. It's not meant to be. It's meant to, let's get people in the game, let's get them playing, let's have them have fun. But the bugs that I've encountered that have impeded my gameplay in any way have happened maybe after an hour of play. Nothing where I'm like every 5 minutes I'm having some problem. I've had the game freeze up a couple of times and things like that. Very minor. This is a very polished game for a beta.
Hey, now, the big question.
Sure.
Can you fly to the top of the Daily Planet?
I haven't tried that yet.
Oh, okay.
Because the way that the cities are broken up, and I'll tell you why, I haven't been in that area where the Daily Planet is. Metropolis is huge.
Yeah.
Gotham is huge. So there's things I haven't seen yet. Actually, talking about tours, with each section you go to, there's a police station, like a small little police station for that particular area. So I've been in the East End in Gotham. And you do a tour. Booster Gold leads you on the tour. And what I'm saying, he leads you via communicator. You go to this kiosk in the police station, and Booster Gold will actually take you to the highlights. So he took me to Crime Alley, took me to the old Wayne Tech building. He took me to the clinic, the free clinic where Leslie Thompson. And when you get to these areas, you click on his kiosk there. Some of them are hidden. And when you click on the kiosk, it zooms back, shows you the whole area, and he tells you the story behind it.
Now, do they go in depth on details about Bruce Wayne being Batman and that kind of stuff, or is it assuming that you don't know the secret yet?
When they talk about the Wayne Tech building, they haven't. I don't remember them saying anything about Bruce Wayne being Batman.
Okay.
They talk about the Wayne Tech building's history in Gotham. They talk about Crime Alley. Actually, that's a great point. When he was introducing Crime Alley to you, he was introducing it as, he did say it's one of the darkest areas in Gotham. Even your most seasoned veteran police officers won't go down there because of its history with the deaths of Thomas and Martha Wayne and people like that. Never implies that they were Batman's parents, though. So
that's cool.
Just talks about the history. So that's interesting that you point that out. No, so you don't lose actually that sense of why would he be telling me as a new hero about Bruce Wayne?
Okay.
So no, and Batman has never revealed that he's Bruce Wayne.
I wonder if that's something that's going to happen, like when you eventually get to the
I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The high level, you can.
I've seen nobody outside of their costume though, hero wise.
Right.
So that fits totally the theme that why would I know that?
That would be a cool thing when you
if you get to that point,
you reach level 50 or whatever the highest level they have set for the game.
Yeah,
you get and if Batman's your mentor, then he's then he drops the cowl and you see that it's Bruce Wayne.
You get this sense of urgency throughout the whole game, though. Like there hasn't been any time yet would be considered downtime because there's so much going on while you're fighting these other missions. A Brainiac one will pop after you get to a certain point. Another Brainiac one pops into your mission queue. You got to go take care of Brainiac because we got a problem. And the Brainiac missions occur in Gotham, Metropolis, showing that Brainiac's all over. This really is a villain who's planning an invasion. So you get that sense of that Brainiac's everywhere. So it's fun to create new characters and see that when you're in a new area, that Brainiac is there. So when you were asking the question about Metropolis, I haven't been to that area of Metropolis yet.
Okay.
And I feel like I've covered a lot of ground. Seen huge parks, wonderful laid out areas that all have something going on to them. I went to Madame Xanadu's magic shop that's in
nice.
Metropolis. So there's constant the billboards fit Nora, the wife of Mr. Freeze.
Yeah,
they have Nora's ice cream shop. That's one of the billboards
Nora's
up there.
ice cream.
Yeah,
Oh.
and which I'm assuming is a tribute to Paul Levitz. They have Levitz, and I forget the name of the shop, but there was something. There's Carmine Wharf. I think it was called Carmine Wharf. It's a little area in Gotham City that's obviously a nod to Carmine Infantino. And I'm assuming there's tons of this stuff throughout the game that you're going to continue to see. I love it. I really feel like I'm running around the DC universe. And you know that that's only going to the amount of variety of areas and the amount of variety of things you can do is only going to increase over time in the game as they continue to add on and improve. It's very polished right now. Like I said, a couple bugs I've encountered along the way in a beta. You know, that's as expected.
Yeah.
The overall experience, though, oh my gosh, it's fun. I literally couldn't put it down. I played today. I was reading comics to get ready for our recording today, and I played it. I came up, read some more comics to get ready for our show, and I'm like, oh, I got a little bit of time to pop back down and go and play. A little bit of time turned into another hour of playing, and I literally went down there thinking, I'll play for like 15 minutes. I got so engrossed and captivated into it that I played again. And I feel like I barely scratched the surface. So that's really cool. Oh, there's this cool bit with Ambush Bug where he'll send you this ticket to this vault. And you go into the vault and it's run by the Joker. And inside the vault there's all these presents. And when you destroy the presents, you get all this loot. But there's these giant exploding balls and giant bowling balls coming at you. So you have to dodge these things and try to get to these presents to get the loot. And you were sent there by Ambush Bug.
Thanks,
but
Al.
but it totally... And he says afterwards, he goes, hope you got lots of good stuff for loot. I was hoping for Argyle socks, but I never seem to get them. So, you know, and it was such a twisted area that it kind of fits that whole character. So there's a lot of little tiny things. Hawkman's in it.
Cool.
They have this player versus player arena. I haven't gone into it yet. But you can collect different characters you can play as. So you can actually play as Batman. You can play as Robin. I know Batman's a pre-order bonus. You can play as Batman if you pre-order the game.
Cool.
In the player versus player arenas. So you get to play as a whole bunch of characters. And there was like 8 characters you could unlock, I think, from what I saw there, of the main ones so far. I'm assuming that will be added to over time. When you're in the police stations, you encounter a lot of the heroes. You can go to the Watchtower and run around there. And it's clear in later levels, you're going to need to go to the Watchtower, because that's going to be your avenue to other places. When I got to the Watchtower, I was basically told by some of the heroes there that it's a little too soon for you to be there. They didn't boot me off, but when I tried to do missions there, I wasn't quite the level yet to be there. But I liked the sense of freedom that you can really go anywhere. You just might not be ready yet for the missions there. So you can if you want to explore, you have the option to do that. Flying's fun. I haven't created a speedster yet. I think my villain's going to be a speedster, because I think that's what I'm going to do on the player versus player of villain, I think. It goes back to our discussion. Do I want to play as a villain?
Yeah.
I kind of want to just to see what it's like.
You got to see the engine and see who their mentors are.
So I think that'll be my
that,
speedster, I'm guessing. But what I've played so far has just been, I can't recommend the game highly enough. It's worth it right now if you're a PlayStation 3 owner and you haven't signed up for PlayStation Plus. There's different avenues to sign up for PlayStation Plus, different levels. I signed up for the yearly one, and I know they had if you signed up for a year, you got 3 months extra free. The cool part about it, when you sign up for PlayStation Plus, you get lots of free games and things like that for signing up, and that changes every month. Once you download the games, for as long as you're a PlayStation Plus member, they're yours to keep.
Oh, cool.
And there's discounts throughout the year of downloadable games that you would pay normal price for in the PlayStation Store. You get them for, sometimes $3-4 off for being a PlayStation Plus member. So by the time the year's done, I will have more than made up everything they gave me. But they also give you access to betas. If you're a PlayStation Plus member, you can get into the DCU beta now without pre-ordering the game. So for those of you that have PlayStation 3s, you can do that. For those of you that are interested in trying out the game, if you pre-order the game, you can still send the pre-order to DC Universe Online, and they will bump you in the next wave of beta testers to be a part of the game. It's a great way to try it out.
Yeah.
And realistically, for those of you that are on the fence about playing the game, you could pre-order it, play the game, and it's not for you. You can cancel the pre-order. So it's a good way to kind of get in and try the game out to see if it's right for you. I'm going to warn you right now. I think if you get in and try it out, you're not going to cancel the pre-order. It's a fair warning. But, it's kind of a one for people who are on the fence. I would encourage trying the game out because it's a lot of fun to play.
Cool.
And it's cool. I haven't had a chance to play with both Myron and Juan and Ziggo from the forums, Leroy, have all contacted me. I haven't had a chance to play with them yet. But actually did see Juan from Geeks Unite. I saw him. I was running through my mission. I was getting ready to log off, and I didn't have a chance to say hi to him. But I saw Whitehall. It's got to be him. Like, who else would have that name, right? Yeah. I saw him in Gotham fighting, and it was kind of cool. I'm like, it was neat. I'm like, I just saw my friend as I was going by, so that was a neat moment. But I like the game a lot so far, and it's really interesting. Do you have anything else you want to know about it so far? Anything I might have missed mentioning?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'm curious to see where the game can go from here. Like, as is, I'm thrilled with it. But it's only going to get better.
Hey, I had actually a quick question.
Okay.
When you level, do you get new powers? Do you strengthen your existing powers? How does that work?
Combination. You get new powers. For example, one character has fire. The other one's gadgets. My Gotham guy is gadgets. So you get new gadgets. You can choose which ones you choose to activate and have part of your arsenal. So, that's cool, actually. We should talk about that. One is like this whip-like power where you can pull the guy closer to you, but it also will wrap around them and electrocute them during part of that time. Little bombs you can toss. And so these get added along the way. But you also increase the power of your weapon. When I say increase the power of your weapon, the moves you can do. Like anybody, as you gain more experience, you can all of a sudden do new moves with your bow staff that you couldn't do before, where you do button combinations to do these moves. So you do sweep moves and all. So it's actually a lot of fun. Then you're doing more combos and things that you couldn't. And they're very easy to activate. And the game will constantly remind you through going in your menu system how to do them. So that's kind of fun as you go along. There's also the ability to upgrade your travel power after you hit level 9 is where that. And I haven't hit that yet because I'm jumping between a couple of characters. But I think that's super cool that you're able to add some different things you can do in your travel power as well. So a lot of flexibility as you level up to add to your character and customize as you're going along. Which and that's rewarding because you have access to those things right from the get-go, but then as the game progresses, you get more of them, and it does make you feel like a more experienced hero.
Now, on the power set, I know you haven't played villains yet, but
are they the same?
Are they the same?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would guess.
Curious. That's what I'm kind of curious about, if it's the same or if they tweak it a little bit or
make them more villainous powers. I don't know. I would guess right now it's the same, but that's a guess, so I don't know. I'll have to try out. Well, we'll continue as because they lifted the non-disclosure agreement. So I'm like, this is great. I can talk about this on the show as I play it. So I will do a follow-up on our next episode to talk about. I'll make sure to play a villain between now and when we record next.
Cool.
So that we can actually have a discussion about the villain end of it. But cool game so far. I'm really excited. Are you still planning to get a PS3 and go through?
Yeah, I'm still planning on doing it. I just got to do it. And it's, I know.
Is that your preference to play it on the PS3 versus the PC end?
Actually, I'm thinking, Yeah.
Because, it's funny because you can't play PS3 players versus PC players. I wonder if they'll lift that eventually.
Yeah, part of the reason I want to do PS3 is because they can't, they have the block there, and I know you're a PS3, and I know a lot of people we know are the PS3 people, so I'm like, I'm going to go with that. And two, one of the things I do enjoy, I still play City Heroes, and I still enjoy it, but there is something I'm always worried that if something goofy happens to my computer, then I can't get on, whereas if I have my place, if I have the separate, just pure gaming unit, that it's going to be, because I want to keep them separate. I want to keep my computer usage and my gaming usage separate. I'm actually even thinking about picking up another computer and have that be my Internet Explorer, various thing, and my one PC would just be for my, for gaming on it. So it's like, I don't know yet.
Actually, a lot of your reasoning is the same reasoning for me, why I'm glad this game, and I got it on the PS3. I was kind of hoping I could do both, because then I could play my characters on the computer. But I do find a lot of times, like after doing the podcast, it's so my wife actually gets to see me. It's great to be able to play them in my living room or in my basement. Like in my basement, I have a nice setup. That's my workout room. And I have my game console set up there. I do a lot more gaming on my PlayStation 3 than I do on my PC. I'm playing Mass Effect 1 right now on my computer because 2's coming out in January for the PS3. So I want to beat the first game because it's a role-playing game with the storyline. But otherwise, my preference really is playing on... I'm a terrible MMO gamer on the computer because I think part of it is because of the podcast. We record so much up here and then I edit up here and things like that. A lot of times when I was playing MMOs, I'll play them while I'm editing. which means you don't want to team with me because I'm constantly distracted. I'm all tabbing out of the game, so I don't team with anybody and I solo. I'm looking forward to, in this game, teaming up with people. Like, we got Myron on there, Juan, Leroy, so far already talked to that are playing this game. It'll be fun to kind of get together with friends and do that. Like, it was fun, even if we didn't team up at the moment, it was fun seeing Juan on the street as I was going through. So that kind of stuff I'm into and I'm digging. So, I'm looking forward to doing it as more of a social game as well. Fun, you and me, I team up, because we haven't done that. When we got into City of Heroes, it was before you and I were doing the podcast. I had played City of Heroes since the original beta, and then you joined in City of Heroes, and we played together quite a bit on the game. We did task forces and stuff like that. We haven't done that in ages.
I know.
Except for me to log on and upgrade your new character in the supergroup. So I'm looking forward to doing that again in a DCU environment. How fun will that be?
I know, that'll be a ball.
Yeah.
Could you just once say, let's get in the car? Is that so hard?
Once again, our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. I want to remind everyone to check out DC Universe Legacies number 10 of 10. Regularly $3.99, 40% off, only $2.39. If you haven't been checking out that series, I can't recommend it enough. Thank you, DCBService.com, for remaining our pre-order source. And over at InStockTrades.com, Batgirl, the greatest stories ever told trade paperback. Regularly $19.99, 38% off, only $12.39. And I want to thank InStockTrades.com and DCBService.com for continuing to support Raging Bullets as we head into our 5th year. Our next episode, Jim, we're definitely going to be talking JSA, because it's a team I definitely want to take a look at. It's going to be a lot like what we did this episode. We're going to take a look at a number of books going on at DC Comics right now. We don't really know which ones we're going to talk, though, so I think we're going to talk as soon as you get back from your vacation to kind of take a look at what books. But JSA will be a team that we want to discuss on there for sure, because big changes, new creative team on the main JSA book, but I also want to talk about JSA All-Stars, which is a book that, out of the 2 books, has really had a strong, consistent team, so I want to talk about that book as well. So, fun to talk about the JSA. As we mentioned last episode, Jim, we're going to be doing the Raging Oscars, and we're limiting each of us to 10 categories, which for you and me should be good enough. But that episode's going to be the one immediately following this next episode that we're going to air, which will be our first episode in January.
Yeah.
Is the way that's going to work out. So that'll be the Raging Oscars for 2010. Take a look at all the books of 2010 and what our favorites were. So I'm going to have a tough time breaking it down to 10 categories. There's a lot of stuff I want to discuss. But it's a good way, I think, to kind of focus our own discussions. What I'm saying, those listeners, if you want to call in, make sure to call our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. And we love having you part of the show, even if you don't want to talk about Raging Oscars, anything that's going on in DC Comics right now that you want to get the word out on or get our thoughts on, your own thoughts. A lot of times I love when listeners call in, whether we agree or disagree. I love just getting a variety of comments on the show about what's going on in the DC universe. And remember to check out our forum community. I actually really love, we have a Facebook group, we have a Facebook page, we also have a forum community that is wonderfully active every week, and I encourage everyone to check it out. There's been some great commentary going on in the forums, the show forum in particular, which is great. Without further ado, Jim, we will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and loss and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Hawkman. The villains are closing in, be they then in guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call